My boyfriend, who is dead broke, is demanding that I buy a house for the both of us, even though he's got tens of thousands of dollars in debt and he literally has no savings, as my boyfriend's basically demanding that I pay for everything while he literally gets to live expense-free on my dime. And honestly, I am not having a good feeling about this. I'm starting to step back in this relationship, and it's really left a bad taste in my mouth because now I really don't know what to do and I need some advice. Here's basically how it started. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for the past 8 years. We live in a condo owned by his parents that they bought as an investment. My boyfriend literally pays $0 in rent or bills, while I pay my share of what the rent would be directly to his father. His parents pay for his medical bills and his cell phone, and my boyfriend and I both have full-time jobs. Now, here's where the real issue comes into play. My boyfriend wants us to buy a house and leave the condo, but my boyfriend currently has $35,000 of debt between credit cards, bank loans, and family loans, and despite having little expense every month, his debt has remained the same over the past 5 years. He keeps telling me he's going to pay it off, but that just doesn't seem to happen. Something always comes up that he has to buy himself or that he just can't live without. So if we buy a house, I will be fronting the entire down payment and the furnishing, and I would be the only one with an emergency fund and additional savings for household repairs. I would also be the only one paying for the mortgage, the household bills, the vehicle payment, the plates, the gas, etc., all for at least 2 years while he still pays off his debts. Even with him not contributing to the household expenses, it will take him over 2 years to pay off his debts, which is why he says he shouldn't pay towards the household expenses until they're all gone. And that's only if he changes his spending habits and doesn't make any new large purchases. I tried to explain to him that I'm not comfortable with him contributing nothing to the purchase or the household expenses for the first 2 years. However, when I do that, he either just shuts down entirely and refuses to talk, or he freaks out and tells me that I'm being controlling. He's told our friends and family that we will be buying something in the next 18 months, and then shows them these expensive homes that frankly are just completely out of our price range. These things need a lot of work, and they're in these neighborhoods with crazy high fees for their homeowners association. So I really need some advice, and the internet seemed like a safe place to ask it. I don't feel comfortable talking about this much with my family or anyone other than my best friend. Now, here's the thing. I'm financially stable, I have solid savings, I've got a full-time job in a safe industry. It's just sometimes I feel like I'm being taken for a ride. I love parts of the life we've built together, but over the past few months, I have felt myself unconsciously stepping back, trying to distance myself from the fights over his debt, but I find myself questioning what I should even do to have a happy future. So has anybody ever been in this kind of situation before? I'm seriously feeling lost, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Bro, what is going on right now? Your boyfriend sounds like a deadbeat, dude. Okay, first off, I think you need to hear this up front because clearly you're confused, but holy crap, don't buy a house with this guy because this is literally a nightmare waiting to happen. I am not kidding. This is not going to go the way you're thinking, and it's going to be a complete disaster. So let me get the facts straight here real quick. This guy has no money, even though he has a well-paying job apparently. He's got $35,000 in debt, and he's still expecting you to pay for everything. Never mind the fact that it's oh, I've got bank loans and credit card loans and family loans. And that last one, family loans, what does that mean? Is this guy really borrowing money that he can't pay back from family members? Can you imagine what he's going to do to you? Are you kidding me right now? This is not a loyal person at all. This is someone who clearly is oh yeah, we're buying a house and you're going to pay for it. No, bro, there's no we in this situation. It's going to be me. I'm buying a house. And even then, I still don't think you should be the one to do that. Honestly, not with this guy at least. Holy crap, he is not going to stick with this. This is just going to be another thing that he owes you and something he's never going to pay. So please do yourself a favor and dump this guy. I don't normally say stuff like this, but seriously, the financial aspect of a relationship is super important, dude. If your partner doesn't have their crap together and they're unwilling to get their crap together, then that's a giant red flag. That is something I refuse to ignore. And in my opinion, it's better to get out while you can instead of being stuck with someone who's just clearly taking advantage of you. Because if you're not careful, that's exactly what's going to happen. And that is really going to suck if you give in. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and also check out Am I the Genius. We love them. They're our favorite sibling, and yes, you do have a favorite sibling. You can't lie to me. You don't love them all equally, let's be honest. And Am I the Genius absolutely fits the bill, so don't even complain about that. Get down to the description and subscribe to them, please. We love and adore them, and I think you're going to love them as well. Also, if you want to submit your own stories, go to AmITheJerk.com. That's the best place in the world for you to share your story and share your experiences with the world, and trust me, I want to hear them. And also, your comments lately have been absolutely hilarious and hysterical because today I found someone who commented 12th on one of our videos. They're the 12th person to comment. And it makes me be like, okay, what did I start? Like, I think I've kind of ruined the idea of like, oh, I'm the first one on the video because we highlighted that. We've highlighted that. We've highlighted the 4th, the 6th, and now it's the 12th person. The 12th person who's commented. I don't know where this is leading because pretty soon we're going to see people with decimal points on how like they rank themselves of when they commented. Like, I love it. So please keep it up, and big shout out to Bryson for being the 12th person on that video. We love you, we appreciate you, and for today only, and for literally the length of this video, Bryson, you're the king of the universe. Congratulations, you did it. But anyways, back to the video and on to the next story. My family refused to invite me to stay at an Airbnb that they were booking for the whole family, as we were getting ready to go for a family reunion that we do every single year. But after I exposed my entire side of the family for not inviting me to pretty much everybody else in my family, this side of my family got pissed off at me, blaming me for running my mouth when in reality, they're the ones with the problem in the first place. And now there's a lot of tension going on and I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things off, every year my very extended family, whose ages range from like 3 years old to 80 years old, has this massive get together. We all used to camp, but as people have gotten older and prices have gone up, while it is still held at a campground, several of the older people and people with very young children have opted to use hotels overnight and then the campground during the day. So when I say very extended family, I mean everyone, from my grand uncles and aunts all the way down to like second cousins. So there's roughly like 40 of us in total. Now this story only pertains to my immediate extended family with my grandparents and below. This year they opted to get an Airbnb that could fit their whole side of the family, which I think is like 15 people including me. And that's because my grandparents are elderly and could use the help at night, and my one cousin has a brand new baby. Well, to get straight to the point, and as the title suggests, I literally was the only one not invited to stay at this Airbnb. I am 100% the black sheep of the family, but I'm not problematic by any stretch of the imagination. I don't steal things or do any illegal substances, and I'm not inconsiderate of other people sleeping in the same room as me, which would happen at this place. And yes, there was absolutely room for me, but here's the thing, I just flat out wasn't invited, and I was asked by one of them what I planned to do for accommodations, and I just said, well, I'm not sure yet. And mind you, this was all while they were discussing like their whole Airbnb situation right in front of the entire family like a few months ago. So anyways, I booked myself a hotel room, and while I enjoy the alone time at night after spending time with people all day, it really sucked to have to do that. My adult siblings got to stay at the Airbnb, but not me. But that's not even the best part about it, because somehow they're mad at me over this. When I finally got to the get-together, I was then asked if I was camping and if I needed help setting up, and I just said, oh no, I'm staying at a hotel this year, I'm completely fine. And this family member, who is from a different branch, so not part of the Airbnb group itself, asked me, well, why didn't you stay in the Airbnb with the rest of the family if you're not camping? And you know what? I told them the truth. I said, hey, I was never invited or asked to come along. And when I said that, they were shocked. And basically, word got around, and it made my immediate family look really bad. Which wasn't my intention, but like, what else do I say? Like, oh yeah, I opted to spend hundreds of dollars of my own money for a hotel when I could have like split the Airbnb cost for much cheaper just because I wanted to. Like, even if I attempted to say anything like that, they know that I'm frugal and they would not buy that excuse. But now I'm being accused of starting drama and trying to make my family look bad when all I did was answer a question honestly. I straight up told them that if they were worried about looking bad due to this, then they probably should have thought of that when they chose to leave only me out of the booking. They've since framed it as like, oh, I never asked, so therefore it's my fault that I didn't stay. And you know what? They're right. I didn't ask. But neither did any of my siblings. My family told them that they would be staying there. I wasn't told, invited, talked to, etc. It was talked about who would be sleeping where right in front of me, and I was never included in that. So honestly, what can I do to try and smooth this over? Or even like prove my point that I'm treated differently? This is not the first time I've been left out of something so deliberately like this. They go to dinners without me all the time. They do things that I specifically say I'd like to do as well, and then claim to not invite me. And sure, while I'm rough around the edges and I speak my mind, I don't think I'm mean to my family or anything that warrants this kind of behavior. I'm just different. I have some mental health problems with like depression, anxiety, and ADHD, and my interests are a lot different than theirs. I've chosen not to have children while everyone else does, and the list goes on and on. And before anyone assumes I wasn't invited because of the children and me not wanting any, I love kids. Like, I'm great with them. Lots of my friends have children, and I even babysit and I play with them, and I show up to all their extracurriculars. But really, kids are just something I'd prefer to be able to like give back to their parents at some point so I can do what I want to do, rather than have that responsibility all the time. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, did I do anything wrong? Because I really don't know what to do anymore. Okay, Okay, I love this. This is one of my favorite activities in the world, where people who treat you badly expect you to cover them when they get exposed. Like, these people really said, oh, we're going to exclude you from our Airbnb, and we expect you to stay quiet about it. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna treat me like crap and intentionally like really leave me out of this, then why should I lie? Why should I cover for you? If you want to perpetuate this idea that I'm the black sheep of the family just because I don't get along with people, then why should I ever cover for your bullcrap? Like, seriously, that's not fair for me, and I have no obligation to try and make you look good in front of the rest of the family. If you're getting in trouble and you're getting in hot water for leaving me out, then congratulations, that's your fault, not mine. They're literally looking at you and saying like, oh, we're so mad that you told everybody we didn't invite you. No, we don't want you around, but we also don't want people knowing about that. How dare you? Like, bro, you're not allowed to win any of these situations. Holy crap. Like, I'm kind of surprised that you even showed up to this event, because if this was me and this was the kind of treatment I was getting, I would not waste my time with these people. I would happily live my life elsewhere and just not give them the time of day. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation. Your family sucks. These people literally leave you out to dry, and then they still expect you to protect their stupid reputation. Like, no, they deserve to be shamed and to feel like crap over this, because there's no legitimate reason why you wouldn't be invited to like the whole family Airbnb, especially when there was clearly room available for you. Like, that is such bullcrap, and there's no good excuse. My dad moved 10 hours away, but still expects us to travel to him, even though I've got a toddler and a lot of things in life I have to work out just to make that happen, putting me in a situation where it's really seeming like he's being entitled, and honestly, it's super frustrating. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my dad and his significant other decided to retire to the coast about 10 hours away by car. So they're both literally retired and they have all the time in the world, and yet they expect me and my husband, with 4 jobs between us, to spend all of our vacation days, board our 3 cats, pack a car full of baby stuff, and drive 10 hours each way, while our young toddler wails her absolute little heart out in the much hated car seat for 10 hours. Actually, it'd be a total of 20 hours out of our precious, rare commodity that is our golden vacation days, as they would be spent low-key torturing our toddler, which, by the way, by extension, is ourselves as well. We would have to spread the drive across 2 days each way just to survive, which of course adds hotel cost. When he planned the move, I told him, hey, you'll be retiring. You'll have to come to us. But now he's pretending to be surprised that my stance has not changed. But what really makes this worse is his indifference towards our daughter, you know, his only grandkid. His social calendar is now apparently so full that he can't visit until November, and he hasn't even seen her since her birthday 6 months ago. So basically, he will not be seeing his only granddaughter for most of her second year. And overall, I'm just heartbroken for her, because she deserves way better than this. And even though my dad could very easily come and visit us, he's just being stubborn, which really makes this entire situation incredibly stupid. Oh yeah, this is some weird level of entitlement, dude. Like, this guy's got nothing but time, and he's got all the time in the world to figure out when he wants to visit them. But for him to be like, oh, you need to come and visit me, I'm not going to you. It's like, bro, are you kidding me? You're gonna make my life miserable like this? Traveling to see you is so difficult. You can't possibly be serious. So I personally think the original poster has it right. Like, dude, if you want to come and visit, come to us, dude. Traveling with a 2-year-old, getting the cats put in like a kennel or whatever you would do with that. Like, dude, I would despise every second of that. So please do the right thing here, because this would be annoying and it would never work otherwise. An entitled Karen literally cussed me out after I left the building of a car dealership, all because her children literally wouldn't stop screaming, which overall is probably one of the dumbest reasons someone's ever yelled at me, putting me in a situation that just really sucked. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm at a dealership right now, waiting on an alignment for a truck for my parents. I'm cool just scrolling on my phone with the volume off, obviously, but this young mom is there with 2 kids who keep randomly screaming at the top of their lungs. A couple of the ladies from the dealership's office even came and joked about it with the lady, laughing at other people in other places getting mad at their kids screaming. So I knew saying something at this point was completely pointless. So I just continue sitting there scrolling. The kids stopped screaming for a bit, so I think, okay, we're cool. Finally, it stopped. But then, just like that, the kids start right back up again. At this point, my PTSD is starting to get triggered, and I simply can't take it anymore. I recognize this is my problem to deal with, so after another scream, I just get up and I start walking outside. I did mutter that I'm just gonna wait outside as I walk past a dealership person, and I guess the mom of the kids heard it because she started screaming at me. She was saying, oh, if you got something to say to me, just say it to my face, you fat idiot. But seriously, I just tuned her out because I know how people like that are. And even if you acknowledge them, that's just gonna make them escalate. So I just kept walking outside and sat on the grass to start watching YouTube on my phone, since while I was out there, I could turn the volume all the way up. Now, I guess she just kept screaming and cussing because another employee came out and asked what happened, and I explained that the screaming kid is like triggering my PTSD. So I removed myself from the situation and that I wasn't trying to cause an issue, which is why I was going outside in the first place. But he said she was still losing her mind in there, so they just didn't really know if I had said something to her. But I was like, nope, I never even said a word to her. And in fact, I was literally just out here trying to like calm myself down from a panic attack. He then just gave me a heads up that they would almost be done with her car, so she would be outside shortly. And I was like, okay, cool beans, thanks for the warning. Now, eventually she did end up coming outside to get her car, and lo and behold, she immediately started cussing at me and insulting me again. You know, as if I don't already know that I'm fat. And the entire time, I just ignored her and I went right back inside to finish waiting. I feel bad for her kids having a mom like that, but holy crap, some people really just think their kids are nothing but unicorn farts and rainbows, and can literally do whatever they want whenever they want. Okay, bro, I hate this. This is so obnoxious. It's always the people who like let their kids run around and do whatever the crap they want that quite literally scream louder than their idiot kids. Like, I bet that's where the kids get this from. They probably have a nightmare situation at home, and the kids are not only copying what the mom's doing, but the mom's also taking it out on the original poster here by being like, wow, I can't believe you're walking out. You should deal with us screaming no matter what. I can't believe you. Like, dude, the original poster is a lot stronger than I am, because I would not want to put up with that crap for a second. Like, anybody starting to cuss at me is going to result in me cussing at them back. Like, I don't know, that's just me. But how would you handle this situation? Like, if someone got in your face all because you walked out because their kid was screaming a lot, would you have any kind of composure if this lady started screaming at you? Leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my neighbor's friends park on my yard? Because seriously, I don't want anyone destroying my irrigation system. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my neighbor runs like a weekly yoga class out of her home. And overall, I'll say that we're like generally amicable. And we've had polite conversations about this prior. But the real ongoing issue for this story is that her clients are parking their vehicles on the street. The road is wide enough and the neighborhood is quiet, so there is no need for them to pull onto the lawn at all. My yard came with an irrigation system and it's expensive and time consuming to repair. I totally acknowledge that sprinkler systems fail anyways, and I've sheared enough heads off the mower to know that, so I can't say for certain that it's her customers causing the damage, but instead I just say to her, please police it better and respect my boundaries. There is plenty of pavement, like park along the road each week as you see fit. I don't care. Well, yesterday when I came home, all I wanted was some peace after an absolute soul-crushing work week, and to my dismay, there are two vehicles parked almost entirely on my front lawn. This time though, I was a bit more assertive and I left written notes. I made it very clear that they were not welcome to park on my property, but hey, the pavement in front of my house was fine. In fact, I even turned on the irrigation for that zone until they left. One lady came to my door and at least apologized, and we had a reasonable and brief conversation. But on the other hand, the $100,000 Mercedes did not, and instead proceeded to drive another 30 feet across my lawn when she left. Every other individual in this scenario is a retired boomer, whereas I'm a millennial trying to raise a family. So honestly, am I the only one that finds this type of situation and like behavior extremely entitled and disrespectful? I feel bad about the sprinklers. I mean, it was quite a passive-aggressive move, but I wanted to make a point and thought bringing some sensory stimulation to the moment might help move this situation along and make sure the message is received. So am I the jerk here? Like, honestly, I need to know because I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This is so stupid. It really should be obvious that you don't park on someone else's property, especially if you don't have permission. Like, dude, that's how you get your car towed. And if I was in the original poster's shoes, that would probably be the route I take next. Seriously, don't get near my stuff. Like, are you kidding me right now? And dude, those sprinkler lines can be so expensive to fix. Like, are you kidding me? I would be taking pictures of everything and be like, dude, if anything broke, whoever's car is near or like over that section, they're absolutely going to be paying for that. Are you kidding me? So no, you're not the jerk. In fact, you could have been way more of a jerk if you wanted to, and it would have been completely justified. Like, turning on the sprinkler system, in my opinion, is like the lowest hanging fruit in this scenario. You could have done way more to these people to screw with them. And the funny thing about it is that it would be completely justified. These people were being complete jerks and they deserve to get punished for it. Today, I messed up by accidentally liking my boss's vacation bikini photo from 8 years ago. And now I am dreading going back to work because this happened at 2 o'clock in the morning and it looks incredibly sketchy. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I've been at my current medical scribing job for about 2 weeks now. The physician I'm scribing for is actually a pretty nice person around her, but I still get that, oh, please don't say anything stupid anxiety around her. And I really want to make a good impression since I wanted her to eventually write my letter of recommendation for medical school. So anyways, last night I couldn't sleep and just like always, I decided to doom scroll. Eventually, I decided I should find some similar topics to talk with my physician about so that she has a more favorable opinion opinion of me. That way we won't have any awkward silences in conversations. I then ended up looking at her profile because they'd mention a hiking trip during like a meeting of some kind, and I was curious to find out where they had gone. It started innocently enough as I looked at a few like recent hiking pictures, and they turned into like older posts eventually. And then somehow I was looking at photos from 2018, and it was here that the worst thing that could possibly happen actually happened in that moment. I accidentally double tapped on a beach vacation photo from 8 years ago. Now I immediately unliked it, I closed the app, and then I stared at my ceiling wondering if deleting my account would be enough, or really what in the world I should do. And right now I am panicking because I have a shift tonight and I have no idea what the crap to expect. Like seriously, what do I even say? I'm not sure if it's relevant, but she is single, so it probably looks like I'm flirting with her. But if I admit it was an accident and that I was stalking her account for talking points, I feel like I'm just gonna look like an idiot. Seriously, what do I do in this situation? Because I am completely lost. Okay, I find this hilarious because, dude, I can see myself doing something like this by accident, where it's like, okay, I'm trying to get to know this physician, I'm trying to be in their good favor, let's just find some talking points, let's find something in common. And then before you know it, you're like, whoops, I definitely double tapped a bikini photo, that's not good. And then you just start thinking like, oh my god, please, no, not like this, I like my job, I need this job, I need a letter to medical school, crap, what have I done? That is so funny, I think that's hilarious. Honestly, in this kind of situation, I would just own it. I would be like, yeah, dude, I was looking through your Instagram page and I accidentally double tapped a photo. My bad. Like seriously, you're not being creepy. If you just own up to it and have some kind of confidence over that, only if she brings it up, then you should be good. Like if she says anything about it, which I really don't think she will, you just be honest and be like, yeah, I was looking through your Instagram page. Like, dude, people do that stuff all the time. It's not that big of a deal. Because hey, holy crap, you know for a fact that push notification went through and she definitely saw like, hey, the person I work with was like liking one of my photos. So the damage is done. Like there's really not much you could do about it. But in my opinion, I don't think you should confess to anything, and you definitely should not bring this up because that's just going to make things weird at work. Like I wouldn't want to destroy that or like ruin that environment, and chances are she's probably not going to care or say anything about it, which in this situation would be like the best case scenario. An entitled Karen claims that I'm a terrorist and a communist, all because I had a Star Wars decal on the bumper of my car, and I've never been more blown away by someone's stupidity in my life. Here's what happened. Well, people, my faith in humanity has fallen just a little bit more today. Some people just have absolutely no clue on how to behave in society. This morning, I'm out and about picking up breakfast for the missus and myself. She prefers Taco Bell and I prefer Carl's Jr. The Monster Biscuits are absolutely amazing. I pull into the Taco Bell drive-thru, and as I'm ordering, another car pulls up behind me and just starts blaring their horn. I'm trying to finish up, but this woman just doesn't stop, all the while screaming out the window that I'm a terrorist and that I'm a communist. And I have no idea why she's screaming these things. I pull forward to the pickup window, and Karen is still screaming at me, but has given up on honking altogether. Maybe she even annoyed herself with it. The employee asked if I know this person, and I tell them I don't. She hands me my bag, and I leave the drive-thru, and the Karen follows me out. So I pull up to the exit and make like I'm going to turn right, but at the last possible second, I pull a left, and now she's stuck at the stop sign, waiting for her turn. I continue down the street, make a quick right into a bank parking lot, and wait there for a few minutes, hoping that she gave up. After about 2 minutes, she is nowhere to be seen. I decided that she probably went on her crazy day, and I just continued down the street. A couple blocks past the Taco Bell is my breakfast stop, Carl's Jr. I pull into the drive-thru. I had already ordered online for pickup, and I'm asked to park while they wait for the fresh tater tots and French toast sticks that I ordered. As I pull into my usual parking spot, this entitled Karen comes out of nowhere and returns into my area. She has spotted me and decided to peel into the parking lot and parked her car right next to mine. And it was right about then that I knew things were about to pop off. I roll up my window as she approaches, and she starts screaming at me again how I'm an imperial communist, that I need to go back to my own country, and that I'm a terrorist. I think she assumed I was Russian or something like that. I don't know. The manager of the Carl's Jr. comes out to give me my food. I'm an almost daily customer at this point, so he was probably coming out to shoot the breeze, even if just for a few minutes. He then sees this Karen going off on me. The manager then asks her what the problem is. This entitled Karen then starts ranting to them the exact same thing that she's been ranting at me the few moments that she's been there. I roll my window down to get my food, and I tell this Karen, what in the world are you talking about? I am not a terrorist. I've lived in the USA all my life, and I have no idea what you're talking about. She then explains herself. What about all those communist stickers all over your car? What's that language say, huh? And then it finally hits me. I'm a Star Wars fanatic. I drive a white 2019 Chevrolet Bolt, and it greatly resembles a stormtrooper helmet, so I have the Imperial logo on my tailgate. I have a decal that says the Emperor doesn't care about your stick figure family, with a TIE fighter and an AT walker blowing up some stick figures, as well as a Star Wars language that says honk if you can read this. I quickly explain it to her that I'm not a terrorist and that this is all Star Wars stuff, including the Star Wars writing, and how it's not any language on this planet or even in this galaxy. I really tried to reassure her. Thankfully, she realized her mistake really quickly. She sputters out a quick, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then jumps back in her car and drives away. I mean, honestly, some people are just straight up crazy. I'm not about to have a political message on my car because honestly, that's a good way to get it vandalized. Yeah, that lady was seriously off her rocker. First off, she didn't know who was in that car. The original poster could have been somebody dangerous. They could have been anybody. And this lady really walks up and says, "No, you're gonna have to hear everything I've got to say. You're a terrorist and a communist." Like, seriously, lady, you must either be really brave or really stupid. Like, if I saw someone's decal that said something I don't know, I am not about to pursue them in my car and start yelling at them about something I don't even know. I'm gonna carry on about my day and ignore them. Like, the way she was acting is a surefire way to basically get hurt. Something horrible could have happened to her if this was different circumstances. So seriously, good for the original poster for standing their ground and saying, you know what, this is weird and you're crazy. Because this entitled Karen was completely out of line, and there was no reason for her to call you a terrorist or a communist. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. An entitled Karen ruins my birthday after she starts to mock what I'm wearing, insinuating that my outfit is somehow offending her religious beliefs. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this happened about a year ago, but it still hurts me to this day. I'm a 17-year-old female, soon to be 18 in a couple of months. My birthday occurs during the school year on Valentine's Day, but most of the time it doesn't bother me. This year it kind of did. For my sweet 16, my dad agreed to let me have a bowling party at the local bowling alley. And this was simple enough, but the only problem with this was that we had to postpone the party to a whole month later because our family had plans. Fast forward to the day of the party, and I was ready to go, but my dad was out, so the only person that could take me to the party that we were hosting was my mom, and she has a very large habit of being late. We ended up being 10 minutes late to my own party, and in doing so, I was already stressed, and there were 5 people already there for the party waiting for me. Once I got there, people were asking me where things go and stuff like that, and it was honestly all over the place. I almost had a panic attack, but after a few calm breaths and a talk with my ex, who was my boyfriend at the time, I managed to calm down. The party went well, and I got a lot of cool things for my birthday. One of my closest friends got me parts of a new costume that I was making. The rest was mainly to help me in my book writing and illustrating. After the party, we went home and had some family friends over. It was mainly a get-together for the parents. Knowing what I got from the party, my dad thought it would be a great idea to wear what I have for the costume that I was working on to show to the visitors. We did it just for fun. My dad and I are extremely close, so I knew that he wouldn't do anything to embarrass me. The pieces of costume that I got were a red jacket, a customized t-shirt with my original character on it, and the 2 pieces from the party, a pink wig and black and white wolf ears. I got all dressed up and showed up to show everyone, and a lot of people were really impressed by it. Well, everybody except for one person, and that is the Karen of this story. Karen was very strict with her religion. Now, we all believe the same things, except Karen was way more strict than my family ever was. Her own husband isn't even that strict. I mean, he jokes around with it just like my dad would. Karen was confused and even looked disgusted by what I was wearing. My mom explained to her that I was trying to dress like the character on my shirt, and keep in mind, this is my original character. But what Karen said in response was something that you definitely do not want to say to somebody. This entitled Karen says, "You shouldn't wear that. It goes against what we live for. Get all of that out of my sight, please. You shouldn't even try to dress up like that. I mean, where do you even think you would get dressed up like that for?" When she said this, I was shocked and I was so hurt. I left from my room and went to the basement trying not to cry while watching my brothers play Super Mario Brothers. At the same time, I could hear my mom talking to the Karen about what she had said. I couldn't hear most of it because of my brothers playing their video game, and also because I have tinnitus, which blocks my hearing with loud ringing sounds. And it's something that usually comes about when I'm stressed out. Once everybody left, I avoided being spotted again. again by rushing to my bedroom and finding a spot for my wig and my ears. The next morning, my mom calls me and my dad to the kitchen table to talk about what happened. She said that after Karen had left, she was getting spammed by this Karen with Bible verses about how not to judge a woman by her outer appearance to marry her. Karen was basically trying to say that I shouldn't go along with the world, but this character is literally my own original thing, and apparently this offended the Karen in some kind of way. The whole time my mom was talking about this whole thing, I was trying not to cry. Now, this wasn't the only time that this has happened. From that point on, every time my mom had to cancel plans on the Karen because she got called into work or anything like that, the Karen would send my mom a Bible verse and try to guilt trip her into not going to work. So now, me as well as one of my good friends, we get nervous every time this Karen gets involved with a group gathering. Apparently, I'm not the only one who gets bad vibes from this lady. My friends and I are also worried about being judged and criticized just for what we are wearing. And to this day, I still can't believe that my mom is still friends with this Karen. So what are we supposed to do? We see this Karen a lot of times going to the same church as us, and I honestly don't want to deal with her again, and I seriously don't know what to do. First off, this Karen's a complete idiot. The original poster literally did nothing wrong. They're just dressing up as a character that they made. There's literally nothing wrong with that. Like, can't this Karen just mind their own business and do their own thing? Why do they have to be up in other people's business and be like, wow, you shouldn't wear that. What's going on? Get that out of my sight. Like, no, lady, how about you leave? What are you talking about? And the fact that she was trying to justify her actions based off of Bible verses, like, first off, what an awful person. Like, seriously, anyone who uses religion to try and guilt trip other people or make other people feel bad just because they're different than you, those people are absolute jerks, and I can't stand people like that. It's obnoxious, it's uncalled for, and to me at least, it doesn't actually prove any point. If anything, when a person does something like that, just like the Karen in this story, it just proves how toxic of a person they really are. So to the original poster, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. You didn't do anything wrong, you're just dressing up as your character you made, and it's clear that your friends have your back, and they wanted you to enjoy the outfits that they got you, as well as the props and the wigs, just so that you could bring this character to life. So if I was in your shoes, I would just avoid and ignore this lady, because the way she's acting is honestly awful, and you do not need that in your life. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my mother-in-law just to babysit our toddler while we go away on a 5-day vacation? Here's what happened. My wife is turning 40 in 10 days. To celebrate, we're taking a 5-day vacation with just the two of us. It's the first time that she and I have been away like this as a couple since the birth of our son almost 4 years ago. We planned this trip months ago, and my wife asked her mom if she would be willing to come to our house and watch our son while we are away. My mother-in-law agreed right away. My mother-in-law is also in her early 60s, but she doesn't have a real job. She will do cleaning for her brother who owns a bunch of rental properties, and he pays her in cash. So it's not like she has a schedule she has to clear to stay with our son for a few days. Last weekend, my wife called the mother-in-law to talk to her about our trip and ask if there's anything she will need or want us to stock up with in the house as far as food or necessities. During the conversation, she said that she will need about $100 per day from us. This is the first time she ever brought up wanting to get paid to watch our son. My wife was caught off guard and just kind of agreed to it. But when she got off the phone and told me about it, I got upset. I told her that she is taking advantage of the situation because she thinks we have no other options. I told her that is BS that she sprung this on us so close to our trip, and I don't think we should pay her anything. I said that I would call my parents and see if they could watch our son instead. My wife told me that my mother-in-law wouldn't ask for that sort of thing unless she needs the money, and that adding $500 to our vacation trip isn't that much of a big deal. I told her that it's not about the money to me. It's about her being sneaky and manipulative. I called my mom and asked her if they would be willing to watch our son instead, and she jumped at the idea. Both my parents are recently retired, so they have plenty of free time and would love an extended grandson visit. I didn't explain the reason for the change. I just told them that things didn't work out with the mother-in-law. I told my wife that my parents can watch our son instead, and that she should call her mom and tell her that we no longer need her to babysit. She said that she didn't want to do that because she was really looking forward to seeing our son. It has been over 6 months. I told her that if she was looking forward to it that much, she wouldn't be trying to swindle us out of $500. I told her if she didn't want to make the call, I would gladly do it for her. She reluctantly made the call herself, but it didn't go well. Her mom got upset because we are now depriving her of seeing her grandson. My wife got emotional and ended up backtracking and said that she would talk to me and see if we could work something out. After the call, she asked me if there was some way we could figure this out, and I told her we aren't changing arranging anything again this close to our trip. She said that maybe we could offer her a lesser amount, but I reiterated that it isn't about the money. It's about her being sneaky and trying to take advantage of both of us. So am I the jerk for refusing to pay my mother-in-law just to babysit our toddler for a few days while we go on vacation? No, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your mother-in-law is absolutely being manipulative. Your parents are happily available to babysit that kid without taking a dime out of your pockets. Literally, this is the first vacation you've had in what, 4 years at this point? The fact that she's doing this literally at the last second just to try and scrape some money out of your pockets for your vacation is honestly incredibly toxic. And to top it all off, she's clearly trying to guilt trip her daughter into allowing her to not only babysit, but also try and take basically $500 out of your pockets. And this also kind of leads me to believe that the mother-in-law probably did this while the original poster's wife was growing up, because the wife in this situation is having a very emotional response. And it really seems like this guilt tripping is quite effective on your wife, and that's really unfortunate. So personally, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the original poster is spot on what's happening in this situation, and I don't blame them for being upset and deciding to go in a different direction. Today, I messed up by making lime-scented sunscreen and causing my body to acquire second-degree sunburn. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying I love the smell and taste of limes. It reminds me of summer and it makes me feel happy. A while back, I wanted to have some lime-scented sunscreen. In my mind, I was going to the beach and I imagined myself in some kind of tropical getaway. So the night before the beach outing, I got a new bottle of sunscreen and I added a bit of fresh lime juice in it until it smells appropriately like limes. I go to bed that night completely unaware of the nightmares that await me. I go to the beach, put on my sunblock, and sit out in the warm sunlight, just peacefully listening to the waves. A little over an hour passes, and I start to notice a slightly painful sensation coming from my skin. So, in my infinite wisdom, I put on more of my sunscreen. Another 45 minutes or so pass, and my skin is really starting to hurt. I decide it would be for the best if I got into my car for a bit to protect myself from the sun. Over the next half an hour, I can see my skin turning red, the beginnings of blisters everywhere, and my skin is on fire. I start to panic. The pain is getting worse and worse over all of my body. I call my friends telling them that I'm in trouble. By the time my friend arrives, I'm red all over and completely immobilized by the pain. Thinking I'm having some kind of severe allergic reaction, they take me to the emergency room. The response is nearly immediate, and I get assessed in the burn unit. Second-degree sunburn over a majority of my body. I'm admitted to the ICU. Discussions about skin grafts are had, but are luckily not needed thanks to the care of my doctors. Now, you might be thinking just like I was, how does such a thing come to be? Well, it turns out that my favorite fruit contains something called furocumarin. This fun little compound can cause skin to burn incredibly quickly when exposed to the sunlight, and I rubbed it all over my body before sitting out in the sun. Even to this day, I'm still covered in burn scars. I barely go outside anymore unless I'm covered head to toe, and honestly, I haven't had a lime ever since. Wow, that is honestly really scary. Who could have guessed that that's what the reaction would have been to your body? I mean, just off the bat, it didn't sound like that big of a deal. I don't think I ever would have assumed that limes would cause that much damage to your body. That's a little scary if you think about it. So I guess in hindsight, it is definitely not a good idea to try and mess with your sunscreen. And the next time you want something lime scented at the beach, maybe just bring something along that smells nice, instead of putting something on your skin that's just gonna cause second-degree sunburn. Today, I messed up by spending over $1,200 at the bar after I got completely wasted, barely remembering my entire night. And I feel so dumb that I overdrank, and now at this point, I'm out a lot of money. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that this didn't happen today, but allow me to share one of my stupidest moments with you, if you will. I was working in trades as a 20-year-old at the time, making too much money every week for my own good. My group of colleagues and I decided to go to this bar/restaurant that evening, and before anyone says anything, I'm Canadian, so the legal age of drinking is 19. Some of the guys brought their partners, so the group had roughly 15 people in it. Fun was had, drinks were flowing, and out came the shots. But seeing as I was the youngest of the group, I was requesting the drinks for each round of shots, which I took part in about 8 or 9 rounds of it. And these were rapid fire style, making sure everyone who was game got a turn. Me not having an ounce of food in my stomach, and now starting to feel the effects of multiple shots in rapid succession, decided to ask the waitress for my bill, as I knew the night was not a long one for me. The night was already starting to blur. I only remember bits and parts by this point, so she brings me the bill, which included roughly 30+ plus various 1-ounce to 2-ounce shots, and it was already up to the amount of $300. I, not wanting to ask her to split it up as I was trying to impress, decided I wanted to pay in cash. Don't ask me why, I don't honestly know why I did that. So I stumbled myself over to the front of the bar where 2 ATMs were at and attempted to withdraw $400. I stood there probably longer than I remember, and nothing happened. I feel a tap on my shoulder from the bouncer, who was probably watching this whole thing with amusement, who said to me, "Try the other one," pointing to the other ATM. So I stumble over there, try to withdraw $400 again, and nothing happens. I hit cancel, wait for it to eject my card, and promptly walk away. The rest of the night was naturally a complete blur. I remember a friend helping me into a cab, but unknowing to me, another friend took my keys as they didn't want me to drive home. I drove the 10 minutes and had every intention of picking my car up sometime the next day. I woke up at 7 in the morning in the hallway of my apartment building, a $20 bill laying next to me, my phone tucked into my shoelaces, sleeping against my apartment door, while also realizing that I didn't have my keys, but I somehow made it into the apartment building. I figured my keys were somewhere between the front door and the apartment, but nope, they weren't there. Eventually, I texted my roommate, who fortunately woke up to the ding and let me into my apartment. I slept another couple of hours until 11 o'clock a.m., and in my self-inflicted pain, I decided to check my bank account. Lo and behold, I discovered that not only did I end up paying my bill with my card, but also both attempts at withdrawing $400 were successful. To this day, I swear that bouncer was watching me stumble around the whole time and watched as dozens of bills exited the machine, completely unbeknownst to me. I also ordered a steak and chips for dinner and another pitcher, bringing the bill close to $400. It honestly made that hangover a lot worse. So you know what? Lesson learned, kids. Know your limits and try to drink within it. Wow, that's an awful situation. This guy literally spent $1,200 at the bar and no one within sight tried to stop them. I mean, seriously, that's a lot of money to drop in one night. Also, that situation is a little bit scary. I mean, here you are waking up in front of your apartment and you're not sure what happened, only to then check your bank account and be like, oh no, I made a big mistake. So hopefully you learned your lesson and you'll try to be more careful moving forward, because literally losing $1,200 in one night is not something anybody would ever want to do twice. My entitled manager makes the loss prevention team at my store take an entire week off of work just to save money for the company. So I decided to get some revenge and remind them of how important my job really was. And as a result, my shady friends came in there without anyone to stop them and stole thousands of dollars worth of merchandise, all without anyone to try and stop them, eventually resulting in that store shutting down 2 months later. And I've never been happier to collect unemployment from anybody in my life. Here's what happened. So I used to work in loss prevention for a regional chain of electronic stores. My job was basically to patrol the store in plain clothing and detain someone if I caught them trying to steal. I've worked private security before, so this was a pretty nice gig. The store's corporate policy, for reasons I cannot quite comprehend, mandated a weekly quota of shoplifter apprehensions, which we called stops. We needed to have at least 3 stops a week. Usually, we had just about 10, which was just shy of 2 per day. And obviously, most of the stops involved expensive electronics. We paid our own salaries many times over and saved the company an astronomical amount of money. That is until one fateful week. Saturday rolled around and all our loss prevention personnel were called into the office. There were 4 of us in total. The store manager told us that only 2 stops had been made for the week, so we had not met our quota. He contacted corporate and they told him to give all loss prevention personnel the entire week off just to save on the cost. An extra cashier would be scheduled to stand by the door as a deterrent. Now, as you can imagine, a week of no pay did not go over well with any of us, and it was particularly bad timing for me. My rent was due, my dog had some vet bills, and my nephew's birthday was coming up. I and all of my coworkers did everything to fight this. We talked about how we usually met our quota many times over, how we paid our own salaries with all the stops that we did, how much money we had saved the company, how laughably ineffective an untrained cashier standing by the door would be, but it all fell on deaf ears. By the end of it, the manager was clearly flustered, but insisted that we just stay at home the next week. He said that we should think of it as a vacation. I mean, we all had paid time off available, but of course, he said that we couldn't use it. He said that it's about cutting losses for the company. Cutting losses, you say? Well, if only he knew the garbage I was about to pull. We all went home feeling angry and wronged. But before I even set foot in my door, I had the vague beginnings of a plan for absolute vengeance. Now, for some context, I had a few friends, or I guess acquaintances, who were a bit shady. They were generally straight-laced, but they themselves had friends who were even shadier. Dealers, addicts, and even a few gang members if the rumors were true. They usually hung out in one of 3 parks in the city limits. So after blowing off some steam at home, I began to make my rounds. The conversation with each group followed a pretty set pattern. I would say hi but look a little upset, and they would then ask me how I was doing. I would say something like, well, not too good, I guess. My store just gave the entire loss prevention team the week off just to try and save money. I'm gonna miss out on an entire week of pay. A few would probe a bit and I would verify that yes, anyone could just walk into the store and take stuff out of it without having to worry about an undercover loss prevention watching them. Now, I knew that my plan was beginning to take hold when someone I had not talked to posted on Facebook asking if it was true that this store had no loss prevention for this entire week. The word seriously gets around fast. All I had to do was now head to the store, grab a 30-pack of beer, and slowly drink the week away while this all went down. People lost their minds. A bunch of product went missing every single day, and not just little things. People were apparently walking out with giant flat-screen TVs and refusing to stop for the lowly cashier by the door. Tablets, laptops, notebooks, and consoles, they all vanished into thin air. Several cell phones from the display case even went missing. But I would not hear about this till later though. All I know is that on Wednesday, hardly halfway through my unpaid week off, I got a call from work, but I let it go to voicemail, and I couldn't help but crack a smile when I finally listened to it. It was the store manager asking me to come in and work a full shift because of all of the problems they've been having. You could almost hear the desperation in his voice. I knew my little scheme had worked perfectly, but sadly, I chose not to respond or come in for work that day. Even if I wanted to, I was pretty deep into a 6-pack at the time. I got another call the following day, which this time I answered. I said to them, "Boss, I'm so sorry, but I'm actually 8 hours away at the beach right now. I thought going out of town would be a good idea since, you know, you told us to treat this like a vacation." In reality, I was still in my pajamas, drinking coffee, and watching my favorite television show all day. The following day, I didn't get a phone call. The store had to bus loss prevention personnel in from other stores and had a police officer standing by the door. I'm sure the police department was happy to oblige, and I can only imagine how many calls they got from the store over the past week. When I went back after my week off was up, there were 2 new policies that were tacked right onto the bulletin board. For starters, at least one lost personnel associate must be on the floor from open to close, and the quota was changed from the number of stops per week to the amount of money saved in a month, a much more flexible and reasonable quota that the 4 of us would have no problem meeting. Well, I should say 3 of us actually. One of my fellow loss prevention coworkers made use of their week off by getting a new job, and honestly, good for them. Now, I never did learn the hard numbers on how much money hemorrhaged out of that store, but I do know that it was somewhere in the 6-figure range. I thought about getting a new job myself, but it didn't prove to be necessary. I guess a company that cuts all loss prevention for a week must have deeper financial problems, because the whole chain folded 2 months later. I then got to spend my days drinking beer, watching Netflix, and getting paid unemployment for it. I ended up landing a new job with a private security firm that paid me much better. I eventually ran into my shadier acquaintances showing off their new iPads a few days after this mess, and needless to say, I think I know exactly how they got them. Yeah, that's a crazy circumstance to be stuck in. Imagine working your job and then getting sent home for an entire week, all because the boss and your store didn't want to pay you. I think I would have lost my mind if I had to deal with that. That must have been awful, but you know what? It kind of worked out in the end, because that store learned very quickly that yes, your job is very important, and without you being there to try and stop the bad guys from getting their merchandise, they will literally lose thousands of dollars, and they've got no one to blame for that except themselves. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. Am I the jerk because I got my daughter an $80 dress because she was so kind to her younger brother? Here's what happened. So my family just got back from a week-long cruise, and there is still some tension about this situation. My wife and I took our 20-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter, 13-year-old son, and 7-year-old son. Our oldest spent most of his time on vacation doing his own thing, having breakfast and dinner with the family, but being seldom seen otherwise. My wife and I enjoyed spending time with our kids, but we also did some couple activities as well. There are clubs on the boat for kids, and our 13-year-old really enjoyed them, but our 7-year-old didn't, and kept wanting to spend the day with his sister, who we had given carte blanche to do her own thing as long as she ate with us, and answered when we messaged her. She was a good sport and took her little brother on most of her adventures, swimming with him, taking him to trivia, and doing the animation classes with him. I felt like this was a very sweet thing of her and showed a great deal of maturity. The second to last day of the cruise, I took her to the gift shop and I told her to pick out whatever she wanted as a thank you for looking after her brother. She was very excited and ended up picking out a dress. The dress was $80. She wore it to dinner and that night, and when she told her mom I bought it for her, my wife gave me a weird look. After dinner, she asked me why in the world I did that. I explained that it was a reward for looking after her brother. She said that we can't buy an $80 dress for our daughter and then get nothing for our sons. I said we didn't get them nothing. We literally took them on a cruise. My wife said that I'm an idiot, but I don't think so. We got some trinkets for the younger boys, about $20 worth of stuff, and my wife thinks that I messed up and said that I should apologize to the boys. But I refuse. We took our adult son on a vacation that cost thousands of dollars. He has no reason to resent his sister for being rewarded for being thoughtful. If we got our 7-year-old and our 13-year-old a really expensive souvenir, it would probably be lost or broken. She still thinks that I'm a jerk though. Now, just to clarify, we did not tell our daughter to explicitly babysit her brother. That's not the case at all. What kept happening was that she would tell us her plans for the day, and the 7-year-old would say that he'd rather go do that than go to the kids club, and she would agree to let him come with her. So it was more of her just being a nice sister than actually babysitting. She always had the ability to drop him off at the club, and that's why I wanted to reward her, because I thought it was so sweet of her to not do that and to make her brother feel good about his cool older sister wanting to hang out with him. So honestly, am I the jerk for wanting to get my daughter a dress as some kind of reward for watching over her little brother? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I honestly think that's really sweet and really endearing. Your daughter was literally being a good older sister. She could have easily just gone off on her own and said, okay, see you later, bye, I'm not spending time with you. But instead, she decided to step up and let her little brother come along with her. I mean, nobody asked her to do that. She literally did that on her own. And that, in my opinion, is a sign of a really good older sister. So no, you're not the jerk and you didn't do anything wrong for getting her that dress. That was clearly a gift that honestly nobody is having a problem with except for your wife for some reason. And I don't think there's anything wrong with her getting that gift and your sons getting something simple, because at the end of the day, they got to go on a cruise, and that is already a fantastic way to spend a vacation. Am I the jerk for checking my husband's dash cam footage on his car without his consent, even though I was trying to figure out what happened to our dog? Here's what happened. So I live with my husband and my daughter. My daughter and I recently went on a short trip out of state while my husband stayed, as he had work and was supposed to look after our dog. On the last day of our trip, we got a call from my husband, who was acting distraught and said that our dog had run away and that he could not find her. He claimed that she just bolted away from him in the park and she went into some bushes and he could not find her. Our dog is quite small. It's a mini poodle mix and it's almost 13 years old. She is still active, but it is really unlike her to run away from us. So I was suspicious, but chose to believe my husband. I mean, my daughter and I were in grief for the loss of our dog, but we did not want to blame him. When we came back home, he seemed surprisingly okay, unlike us. Ever since the pandemic, my husband started working from home, and he has always been annoyed at how much attention we gave the dog and hated how the dog begged to sit on our laps and his while he worked. A few days later, we got a call from Animal Rescue in our neighborhood stating quite far from us that she had been found. I picked up the phone and it was on our landline, which we almost never use these days, but it was the contact on the microchip. I told my husband and he just said, "This is great, I'm so happy," but it felt kind of blunt and insincere. I said it's strange that she got so far, and he responded that someone must have stolen her and then abandoned her. This made little sense to me as to why that would happen. So when he was out drinking with his buddies, I copied the videos from his dash cam for the days I was away, and I saw that he had indeed taken the dog far out of state, had clearly dropped her off in front of his car, thrown a frisbee-like object into a field, yelled at her to fetch, and then drove off without her. I was livid and confronted him, and he just stupidly stupidly muttered how he dropped her there so she could find a farm and have a better life. And then the next day, he got angry at me for viewing his dash cam, and he called me and my daughter jerks. So I need to know, am I the jerk for checking my husband's dash cam footage on his car, all without his consent, just to try and figure out what happened to my dog? Wow, your husband is an awful person. Let me get this straight. He literally took the dog out of state, threw a frisbee and said, "Go fetch," and then got in his car and then took off. Like, are you kidding me right now? This guy has clearly seen one too many movies, because that's a horrible thing to do. Like, there's no good excuse for treating a dog like that. A dog, in my opinion, is a member of the family. It is trusting that you're going to take care of it. Like, seriously, this guy has some serious problems. And it's also a massive red flag that he freaked out that you're looking at his dash cam footage. I mean, if this heartless jerk can clearly get rid of his dog by just throwing a frisbee out of state and then running off like nothing happened, what else could he possibly be hiding from you? I bet that dash cam has a lot of footage that you probably don't know about. So no, you are absolutely not the jerk for checking the dash cam footage. I mean, honestly, let's just thank our lucky stars that it was even there in the first place to check. So honestly, hopefully this all works out for you, because this pathetic excuse for a man is an absolute dirtbag, and he had no right to treat that dog in that way. Today, I messed up by realizing that I destroyed an art piece in an art gallery 10 years ago, and now I feel really bad and I don't know what to do. Okay, I want to start off by saying that while this event happened 10 years ago, I literally just realized an hour ago what I actually did. In 2014, I was just completing my master's degree in design. Now, the degree was set up in such a way where it was one course of 40 people, but we were all doing different areas, from dance to architecture, sculpture, textiles, everything and anything. We would have lectures together and present the progress on our projects every couple of months. So the end of the year comes around and we start setting up our final gallery show. The space we were using was the first year art students workshop, which we cleared out, prepped, and painted it fresh. When I arrived to do my part, one wall was a complete mess, like 100 holes all over it, like a hammer and knife attack. I was angry that a first year did this to a structural wall, so I decided to grab the sandpaper, some filler, and some paint just to try and fix it. The show went ahead fine, with a warning wet paint sign on that section. I think you can tell where this might be going. You know how your brain suddenly reminds you of things out of nowhere? Stuff like, oh man, my laundry, or oh, I forgot to pay that bill. Well, I'm sitting in my bed and suddenly I realize, oh no, that was Anna's master degree piece. You see, Anna was a part-time mature student on different hours to the rest of us. We saw one presentation of her work, which was about making repeated holes into paper and cardboard. I never thought about it much again. She must have come in before the rest of us, created the wall piece for the show, and then left. And I just went in, filled it all in, and painted over it. To be fair, she never really left any note or a name on the piece of art. I honestly don't even know if she knew what happened to it, since it's not like she would need to come back to collect it after the show, since it was, you know, a wall. If she did, I hope she saw humor in it and added it to the piece's story, saying something like, humans crave to repair damage, or something like that. Either way, I'm now silently cringing, and I may need to repent to the art gods, or else karma will come back and strike me down. So sure, that is kind of a mess up to some degree, but you know what? If your classmate didn't want that supposed art project to get fixed and painted over, well then they probably should have properly labeled it. Like seriously, they didn't tell anybody that's their work. They didn't put up a note or a sign or anything along those lines. Like seriously, this is your classmate's fault, not yours. You were literally just trying to make that place look good in preparation for the art show. So I mean, sure, in retrospect, maybe you did mess up, but at the end of the day, this is completely Anna's fault, not yours. Am I the jerk for telling off my brother-in-law after he mocked my son for going to therapy? Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old male, and my 15-year-old son has been in therapy for the past few months after his best friend passed away. It was very hard for him, and while I've always been there to help him, my wife and I felt that having a therapist would be best. He seems to be making a lot of progress, so I know it's working. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law is the type of man who thinks that men shouldn't express their emotions. Now, I've always thought this was complete baloney, so I made sure my wife and I were on the same page about not letting that happen. Last night, there was a family gathering. My son had just had his therapy session, so we picked him up and drove there. While we were there, my son was telling me about something they talked about, and my brother-in-law must have overheard it, because he started on a tangent about boys not needing therapy and calling my son a girl. control. I probably wouldn't have reacted as much if my son hadn't been there, but my son was visibly hurt by what he was saying. I was angry at him, and I told him to get lost, stating that right now my son is more of a man than he is. I would have liked to say more, but I didn't want to upset my son further. I admit that I might have gone a little too far, but I was defending my son. But I don't think someone who shames someone else for being healthy while also being sexist is being a man. My brother-in-law just glared at me and stormed out of the house. My wife told me that we were leaving, so I got my son and we left. My son didn't say much the rest of the night, but my wife sure did. She was mad at me for doing that and saying I disrespected her brother. I tried to explain I was just defending my son from him, but she wouldn't take it and is ignoring me. I'm still mad over this. My son was shamed for expressing his emotions, and then everyone gets mad at me for defending him. But all of their reactions are making me second guess myself and wondering if I'm secretly the jerk here. What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk for stepping in and defending your son. Your brother-in-law was absolutely being a jerk. He disrespected your child in front of everybody. And by the way, your son's going through a really difficult time right now. His best friend passed away, and things have been so bad that he needed therapy to try and deal with this situation. You literally did your job as a parent, and in no way do I think that makes you the jerk in the slightest. Am I the jerk for speaking to my child in Polish, even though my boyfriend has asked me not to do it? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I've been dating my boyfriend who's 26 years old for about 3 years now. We have a son together who's 13 months old. Not too long ago, my son said his first word, and I decided that now might be a good time for me to teach him Polish in addition to English. So for the past few days, I've been speaking Polish to him. I know he won't learn it straight away, but in a few years, he might be fluent. However, when my boyfriend saw me saying Polish words to him, he said that I should stop doing that. I asked him why, and he said it wouldn't be fair if we could communicate with each other in a language that he could not understand. He even said that Polish wasn't a useful language to learn, like Spanish or French. I have acknowledged this, but I have continued to do this, even though my boyfriend has asked me to stop. I feel guilty, but I do want to share my first language with my child. I also feel hurt that he doesn't care about my language, so I need to know, am I the jerk for speaking to my child in Polish, even though my boyfriend has asked me not to, and is really against the idea of my son learning the language? You are not the jerk for teaching your son a second language. Your boyfriend is being an idiot. Seriously, this guy is a complete moron. Why would he not want his son to be bilingual? Now that I'm an adult, I'm personally very furious that I don't know a second language. Like, I never had the chance that some people had of not only learning a second language in school with like a really good program because I never had one, or to have a native speaking family member who speaks that language. Like, seriously, this is a really good opportunity for this kid. And just because he's learning Polish doesn't mean that it won't be useful in his life, because most kids who are bilingual earlier in life might have an easier time learning other languages. And teaching him when he's younger and carrying on this language to your son would not only be a really good way of keeping your family line alive, but it's also a good way to set him up for life. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your boyfriend is a complete idiot, and seriously, if he wants to know what you're saying to your son in Polish, then it's time for him to pick up a book and learn Polish, because as far as I'm concerned, it would be a disservice to not share this with your son. My entitled downstairs neighbor bangs on her ceiling anytime we walk around, claiming that we're making noise on purpose and that we're trying to intentionally ruin her life. Things got so bad that she threatened me and my boyfriend, forcing us to call the cops to intervene just to fix this situation. And needless to say, we are hoping to get a better apartment in the future, because we are sick and tired of this crazy Karen. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I moved into a new apartment in August. It's older, so the floors are super creaky. And according to our lease, we're obligated to cover 90% of any room with carpet, except for the bathroom or the kitchen, just to try and help with the noise. It turned out our apartment was previously managed as a dorm by a local college, so the floors already have a layer of super thin, awful carpet. We also laid down more rugs to help with the noise cancellation. Our downstairs neighbor moves in about a month later, and within a month of that, starts banging on her ceiling when we get too rowdy. The first couple of times, it happened super late in the living room. We were moving around after midnight the first time, and later she came to talk to us and asked us to keep it down at night, which is like, okay, sure, fair enough. The next time was when we walked in from the airport at 10 o'clock at night. She came up, banged on the door, and talked over my explanation. I told her I was sorry, and I asked when she was hearing the noise, assuming it was just my cat running around at night. But no, she tells me that she knows it's not the cat, she knows it's us, and she doesn't live alone. Which again, okay, but whatever. So we started to go to bed earlier as we settled into the apartment and our jobs. But the banging only continued. For months, she would hit our ceiling whenever we walked around. Going to bed at 10 o'clock, bang, she would hit the ceiling. Waking up for 5:30 for work, she would do the same thing. Even if you sat on the couch but you decided you wanted some snacks, she would still hit the ceiling. Around Christmas time, she comes to our door again. My boyfriend answered, and this time I recorded, and I'm so glad I did. This woman came up and looked my boyfriend in the eye and said, "You have to stop following me." My boyfriend says, "What are you talking about?" She looks at him and says, "I know it's not the cat or the dog or your girlfriend because I know your footsteps. I don't know how you figured it out, but you figured out how to listen to where I am, and you're following me around my apartment, and I'm sick of it." My boyfriend calmly responded that she sounds crazy and that we straight up don't care about her. She then told us that she doesn't live alone. So we're thinking, cool, she's practically insane, whatever. The banging continued with us stomping every time we heard it. She didn't like that, but it made it more fun. We had already explained the situation to our landlord, and they were thankfully on our side. But things only got weirder as this lady went from crazy to absolutely insane. Now fast forward, and our town was the first in the United States to be locked down under quarantine. So for the first few days, the banging gradually increased until one day this woman lost her mind. I will admit that we are early risers on the weekends. On this particular Sunday, we ended up waking up super early, but not doing much for the next few hours. We drank some coffee and sat on the couch until 11 o'clock. At that point, we decided to get up and clean the apartment. And that's when homegirl absolutely lost her mind. She had to be running from one end of her apartment to the other. She's banging her ceiling so hard that I'm convinced she's damaging it. At one point, I hear what sounds like muffled yelling after she followed me into the bedroom. We had plans that day, so we just ignored her. We finished cleaning and we started to leave. She must have been waiting for us to leave because for the first time ever, she walked out of her apartment right as we go to her landing. I was holding the dog while waiting for my boyfriend to come down, and as she starts to descend down the stairs, of course, she decides to turn around and say something. She says to me, "Tell your boyfriend to cut it out." I look at her and say, "Cut out what? Walking around? You're hitting the ceiling because of me and the dog moving, not him." This crazy Karen continues to spew some of this garbage at me all the way up until my boyfriend gets down to me. She proceeded to stay exactly 3 steps ahead of my boyfriend, slowing us all the way down the stairs. She tried to block us going out the door at the bottom, but backed off when we just didn't stop. She's continuing to yell at him all the way to the parking lot. Between myself and my boyfriend, he's typically the hot-headed one, while I'm typically the calm one. Amazingly, he kept his calm the entire time, calling her a crazy lady and ignoring her as we walked past her and her car to the dumpster. As I passed her car, she decided to continue talking to me, and I was just so angry not to engage. The entitled Karen said, "I'm serious, it's done." I say, "Okay, what do you want us to do? Crawl around? I already told you we have a 60-pound dog, and we're all just walking around." This crazy entitled Karen then said over top of my talking that I need to remember that she doesn't live alone. But I look at her and I say, "Okay, stupid, well neither do I. Do you see my boyfriend over there? Like, what's your point?" By the way, that's the 3rd or 4th time you've said that, and that could be taken as a threat. This crazy Karen then says, "You think it's a threat? Fine, it is." And at this point, I looked at her and I said, "Okay, well I'm gonna call the cops," with her saying that she would do the same. So we both call the cops and they pull up. They talk to her first and then they come talk to us. I don't know what she told them, but when they come talk to us, I told them everything she had said and done for the past 6 months. The officer explained that it was a civil matter and that it would have to be dealt with by the landlord, but assured us that they explained to her that it is perfectly acceptable to walk around your apartment at 11 o'clock on a Sunday. They also told her not to knock on our door ever again and that she's not allowed to bang on our floor over footsteps at any point. For a couple of nights, she got back at us by banging at 1:30 in the morning just to try and wake us up. We had already reached out to our landlord again, and at this point, he told us that he'd see what her problem is. But that's still not the last of his troubles with her though. We ended up talking to the people that live below her and telling them about the banging. It turns out they've heard it this entire time and had no idea what it was. Now that they know, they've also reported her to the landlord. The banging has stopped and we don't expect her lease to be renewed. And you know what? Hopefully we end up in a better apartment in the next couple of months. Yeah, that entitled crazy downstairs neighbor honestly had this coming. She tried to pull the power play of banging on the ceiling to try and get you to shut up, but in all actuality, you're not even doing anything wrong. You're just walking around your apartment. Like seriously, this Karen is completely out of line, and I think it was a really good idea to get the cops involved. This lady's crazy. She's waking you up at 1:30 in the morning. She's banging the top of her ceiling anytime any noise happens. Like seriously, if you're going to live in an apartment, there's gonna be noises that you probably don't like, but sometimes you need to just learn to live with it, even if you don't like it. So good for you for standing your ground, and hopefully you do find a better house to live in, because I would hate for this lady's lease to get renewed and for you to be stuck with her all over again. That sounds like a nightmare, and that is not something I would ever want to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. An entitled Karen writes a bad review after we kept our store 20 minutes open after closing just to accommodate her and get her kids out of our store. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I work at a buy, sell, trade toy store that has new and used toys. We also have a build station where kids can build minifigures. The store is located in a mall. So a woman with 5 or so kids came in on Sunday and were wanting to make their own minifigures as well as look around the store. My coworker and I were more than happy to help them, and they all wanted to build their own figures. We waited patiently. Then about 10 minutes before closing time, we let them know that they had 10 more minutes before we had to start closing procedures. As a side note, there is one day a week where this mall closes early, which means the store closes early as well. They all said that was great, and my coworker and I went ahead and started cleaning up other areas of the store. After 10 minutes, we let them know that we would have to start closing down the store, and we would start ringing them up if they wanted. The woman started to get extremely huffy and asked why we were rushing them out. I explained that our store wasn't allowed to be open longer than the mall was, and that all store employees were supposed to be out at most an hour after closing. We told her she could let her kids finish their figures and that we could give her 10 minutes to do so. When the 10 minutes were up, I went over to let her know. We had another conversation about why she couldn't stay longer, which turned into a 5-minute argument where I was trying to stay calm and she was getting more and more aggressive. So I told her she could either check out now or we would have to close. She got extremely angry and had all of her children put all their items into the minifigure making area, and they stormed out. We ended up staying another 20 minutes to clean up after them and finish our procedures. The next day, my manager showed me the review she had made. Here's what it said, basically paraphrased. We went in with my kids, unaware that they were closing early. They had a minifigure table, so I let my kids build some. They didn't let us finish or pay. Instead, they kicked us out and made us take apart our figures. The kids were super sad because we drove out of town to make them. I am extremely unhappy with the rude employees. My coworker and I explained what happened, and my manager watched the footage on our CCTV. And thankfully, after all of that, we did not get in any trouble. What an absolute jerk. First off, you came in right at the end of closing. It's literally the end of the day, and you seriously don't know that, hey, maybe we gotta leave? Like, that's just honestly lazy and really negligent on this lady's part. This is not the original poster's fault in the slightest. They were literally just trying to do their job and get this lady out the store so they could all go home. Like, if the mall's closing, then guess what? You gotta go. These people can't keep the store open just for you and your spoiled kids. So thankfully your manager believed you, because if they had not believed you and they somehow pinned this bad review on you, I think personally if I was in your shoes, I would have been looking for another job, because dealing with an entitled Karen like that is the absolute worst. But possibly getting blamed for something that you didn't do would probably be way worse in my opinion. I found out that my wife has a secret bank account that she's been moving money from our joint bank account over to this account, and I'm really confused and I don't know what's going on. Okay, to set the scene, I've been married to my wife for 10 years and we have 2 boys, one that's 6 years old and one that's 10 years old. I work full time and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. Our eldest boy is in school and our youngest is at home with her during the day. Financially, we do okay. There's no issues putting food on the table and paying bills, but we're not going on overseas holidays every year. Last night, I was looking at our joint bank account on the internet and I noticed an unexpected transfer of about $100. I thought that this was odd and I looked through the transaction history and I saw that there's quite a few transfers to this account. There doesn't appear to be a pattern to the frequency or the amount. I confronted my wife and she eventually admitted that she has a separate bank account that she hasn't told me about.
account. I wasn't happy about this, but what really got me upset was that she refused to show me the account on the internet, as I wanted to see how much was in it and what purchases she had made. I called her a liar and untrustworthy, which I probably shouldn't have done in the moment. I went to bed without talking to her again. I got up early this morning to go to the gym while she was asleep, which is normal for a Saturday. I went through her wallet and I found her bank card. On the way home from the gym, I went to the ATM and checked the balance. Thankfully, she uses the same PIN for everything, and I found out there was only a few $100s in the account. The ATM only provides the balance and doesn't show past transactions. This seemed to stack up because I would have noticed money missing from our joint bank account if she had saved up thousands of dollars. She also hasn't made any unexplained expensive purchases. No new jewelry or expensive clothing. Sometimes there would be something new in the house, like a potted plant or a new toy for the boys, which I didn't notice was purchased from our account. But I just figured she must have bought it when she went out grocery shopping or something like that. What I can't work out is why she refused to show me the internet banking details. I feel like she's really trying to hide something, but I can't work out what it could possibly be. And I guess this is honestly my main question. Could it be that she simply prefers to have some independence? Or could it be something more serious? What should I do? First off, I don't think it was really appropriate to be looking through her bank account. Like, honestly, that seems really controlling, and that doesn't seem right in my opinion. I understand you're trying to get to the bottom of this and try to figure out what's going on, but at the end of the day, that's not your bank account, regardless of if she's putting money in there from your joint bank account. And checking that bank account without her permission is a huge violation of trust. And this kind of leads me to believe that maybe you're doing something that is really controlling and is inappropriate in your life together. I mean, the way you're acting is kind of leading me to believe that maybe you're really controlling with your money, and this is the only way she can have any kind of money for her own to spend on what she wants. Now, don't get me wrong, the fact that she's taking money out of the joint bank account and putting it in this secret bank account is a little weird in my opinion. But I think overall, if you just speak with each other and talk about what's going on in your relationship, you can hopefully get to the bottom of this. But either way, I think you really need to tell her that you did look through the bank account and you know exactly how much is in there, because otherwise this is only going to cause problems in the future. And hopefully the both of you can figure this out. Am I the jerk for putting an outside lock on my bathroom just to prevent my wife from using it? Here's what happened. My wife and I bought a house together about 6 months ago. This is our first time living together. Our house is an old American house that has been reformed many times. As a consequence of this, it has a silly layout where there are 2 bathrooms right next to each other that share the same wall. When we went ahead and bought it, we made an agreement that I'd take the bathroom on the left with a shower and she would take the bathroom on the right with a bathtub. Hers is much more spacious than mine. I soon learned that my wife preferred to use my bathroom, but only to go number 2. She would go number 1 or take a bath and do her makeup in her own bathroom. But when the time comes to have a number 2 situation, she only wants to use my toilet. Now, I usually wouldn't mind this, but the issue is that she sits for far too long on the seat, which leaves streaks in the bowl virtually every time she goes. I first tried approaching this civilly by asking why she used my bathroom. She gave me a vague answer about preferring it. Then I asked if she could at least sit back a bit more. She said it was none of my concern how she sat on the toilet. I offered to change bathrooms with her, to which she said no thanks. Then I asked her to stop using it, and she said it was her house too, so she should be allowed to go wherever she wants. I'm honestly tired of opening the toilet lid and seeing a number 2 in the bowl. The day before yesterday, I installed a lock on the door that I could open with a key. At first, she didn't seem to take the hint. She asked me for a key to the bathroom, to which I said no. Then, as she really had to go, she started to panic and asked me again and again to open it. I told her that she has a perfectly good toilet in her bathroom. She finally relented, but came out of the bathroom extremely upset with me. She's been ticked off ever since and demanding that I remove the lock. Now, was I out of line here? Am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, this story is insane to me, because your wife is literally destroying that toilet and not flushing it. That part in and of itself is like, what is happening right now? Are you serious? Are you really gonna do that to someone else's toilet and then not have the decency of cleaning up after yourself? Like, seriously, if you guys want to have some kind of deal about who uses what bathroom, like, go for it. You could do whatever you want, but at least have the common courtesy of cleaning up after yourself. That is straight up disgusting, and I can't believe she's not taking that seriously. Because seriously, just imagine how she would react if you started doing the exact same thing to her bathroom. I'm pretty sure her safe space for baths baths or whatever she wants to do would suddenly become very disgusting very quickly. Like, honestly, that is so gross. And she's only going to your bathroom because she doesn't want to destroy her bathroom. So honestly, if this was the situation I was in, I would not hesitate to put a lock on that bathroom either. She is seriously being weird about this and incredibly selfish. And I don't blame you considering the extenuating circumstances. Am I the jerk for not wanting to eat dinner with my coworkers at a conference since I made plans to eat with my wife over video call? Here's what happened. I'm a 47-year-old male, and unfortunately, I was roped into going to a work conference recently. I'm a remote worker, but sadly, I was told that I needed to attend a conference that many of my coworkers go to each year due to how integral my duties were to this year's presentation. Now, I am not buddy-buddy with any of my coworkers or my boss, but I am professional with them. This was the first conference I had ever been to, so I did not realize how much these things consume the entirety of the time spent there. The first 3 nights of the conference there were different dinners I had to attend after typical work hours, and when over 8 hours had been spent doing work-related things at the conference already. Now, I don't really mind attending the actual conference that much. What I mind is the expectation that I spend any more time than necessary with my colleagues. In my opinion, if I've spent from 8:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night at the work conference with coworkers, attending work-related sessions, and giving a work-related presentation, anything past 5 o'clock means that I'm no longer at work. I was already rather peeved that this was not the expectation at the start, but I was at least informed of these 3 different formal scheduled dinners once the conference schedule was released. The 4th and final night of the conference I expected would be completely mine because there was no conference-wide scheduled dinner. As such, the night before when I called my wife, I asked her if she wanted to eat dinner together, and we would do this through a video call. We would eat together, spend as many hours as possible chatting, all before going to bed. And when I asked her this, she said that that would be lovely. We made plans to call at 7 o'clock our time, and I was really looking forward to it, as obviously I love her and I love her company. Well, unfortunately, at lunch on the final day of the conference, my coworkers and my boss mentioned going to a specific restaurant. They asked if I was excited to go, and I said I was not going, but I hoped they would enjoy themselves. They acted like I smacked them in the face and asked me what I meant. I told them I had made plans to call my wife and eat dinner with her. I was then informed that apparently there is some kind of tradition of all of my coworkers eating dinner together on the last night. I said that I wasn't informed of that, and we had already eaten dinner together every other night, but I hoped that they enjoyed themselves nonetheless. My boss then said it was something I had to attend. Then some of my coworkers agreed and said it was an important part of the conference. I told my boss and my coworkers that it was outside of my work hours. It was unpaid and it was not scheduled. Plus, I prefer my wife's company over theirs, so I was not going. They then told me that I was being rude and I was being a jerk, and that I should have expected that we would all dine together on the final night. I said that that was ridiculous, but my boss implied that not attending would have repercussions, so I called my wife and apologized to her and sadly attended this stupid dinner. So am I the jerk for not wanting to eat with my coworkers? No, you are not the jerk, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have dared that guy to try and fire me or in some kind of way retaliate against me for not going to dinner. Like seriously, I would just go straight to HR if he tried that on me, because that absolutely is going to violate so many laws it's not even funny. You're not on the clock, you're not obligated to go to this dinner. Your boss literally just made a veiled threat against your job, and that is completely inappropriate. Like, that is not okay. I totally understand you going to not try and rock the boat, but this is a good indication that these are not good coworkers, and this is absolutely not a boss you want to stick around with, because what that guy did is not okay. He cannot threaten your job all because you want to spend time with your wife. And by the way, that sounded like a really cute date with your wife. That would have been a lot of fun to sit in your hotel and have a video call where the both of you eat together, and your coworkers and your boss just completely ruined that. So you seriously deserve a better working environment than this, because what your boss said is unacceptable, and he had no right to threaten your job like that. An entitled couple steal a car from my car dealership after they claim they're gonna make payments on the car I sold them. But fast forward a few months and they haven't paid a single dime. So I decide to get some revenge. And not only did they get arrested for violating probation, but as a result, their kids also got taken away from them. And I've never been happier to get revenge on anybody in my life. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, I'm a part of a small family-owned type used car dealership, and we have maybe 50 cars on the lot at any time, and our main business is subprime or people with less than perfect credit. We truly want to help the people who can't afford a car or who don't have the credit to buy a new car from a dealership. We're actually very liked in our small community. So recently I had these customers. Let's call her wife and him husband. They were in their early 20s and they come into my store and I like them. They seem like a nice young couple trying to start out their lives. They have two very sweet little girls and could just use a break overall. They have made some mistakes in their early lives and have less than perfect credit. I coach them on how to improve their credit and they seem sincerely interested in fixing it, so I bust my butt to get them a loan with the wife's mother co-signing on a nice third-row SUV. The wife is literally crying and hugging me because every other dealer turned them down. Now they are a little short on the down payment, so I take a check for the balance and we agree I'll cash it on his next payday, which was honestly mistake number one. But this is pretty common in this line of work. Now I forget about them until the next week when I drop the check at the bank along with the other deposits. The next thing I know, I receive a notice from the bank stating that the check has bounced. Along with a couple of fees attached to me, the check comes back. It's a dollar amount that is considered a first-degree misdemeanor in our state, just barely not a felony. I reach out to the wife to see what happened and how we can make arrangements to get this taken care of. The last thing I want to do is go after a young couple with two small kids. At first, the wife is a little shocked and insists the funds were pulled from their account, and I show them the picture of the bounced check. She understands and says they can pay half in 2 weeks when she gets paid again, and then 2 weeks later they can pay the other half. I agree to this and just take them on their word, which is another big mistake. And from here on out, things escalate in a way that I honestly never expected. A couple weeks roll by and I don't hear from the wife or the husband, and I'm now thinking if I've just been taken for a ride. They're ignoring my calls, ignoring my text messages. It's really awful. I get a call from the bank and come to find out they haven't made their first payment either. Now with this particular bank, if the customer does not make their first payment, we have to buy back the deal. Basically, we have to give the bank the money they sent us for the loan. After blowing up their phones and Facebook page, they finally call me back. I get the sob story of a century. The husband was apparently let go from his job and he just started a new one, and the mom is going to help them get back on their feet. I go through heck and high water with the bank to make a deal with the bank that if they make their payment, they'll keep the loan, but I'm still on the hook if they miss any of their next 3 payments. The wife also tells me they'll make payments to me on the bounce check once he starts getting paychecks. So I agree, they'll make payments to the bank and I'll just go about my life. That is until next month rolls around. I get an email from the bank saying the wife didn't make the next month's payment and won't answer their calls. At this point, I'm furious. I'm ready to just go get their vehicle. They won't answer any of my calls, and when I call the mom scrounges everything in her social security paycheck to try and help make the payment for them and is still coming up short. The wife and husband tells her that they'll cover the balance, and of course they don't pay. The bank says the deal is a buyback, stating that we need our money back for the loan within 7 days. Now, the only way I can pay back their loan is if my floor plan, which is basically a giant credit card that we buy cars on, gets pictures of the car in my possession. I try to call or text or email or message them on Facebook to get a hold of both the wife and the husband, but they straight up block me on everything. They're basically just stealing the vehicle without paying. They even blocked the mom who has been trying to help them get this handled. Yes, they screwed over even their own mother in this ordeal. I just want to get the vehicle back and move on with life. So this is where I decided to get some revenge. I begin by dropping the check off at the local prosecutor, and they're delighted to file charges against them. I do some skip tracing, calling family members, all of which are more than happy to help us because come to find out, the husband has had 7 jobs in 4 months and has burned every single family member with money that they've borrowed. I find the wife's father on Facebook, and the father has been trying to take custody of the deadbeat wife and husband's 2 kids because of how they treat them. He informs me they are staying in a sister's house right over the border. For reference, we are on the state line of 2 different states. I call up a repossession company, and even I myself drive the hour to go get the vehicle. They've been hiding it in the garage according to the neighbors and the repo company. I do some searching and I find out they're both on probation for stealing a bunch of stuff from multiple stores. So of course I find out who their probation officer is, and I give them a call to see if she has the last known address of these 2 people. I then mention to her they're staying above the state line and bounced a very large check to me, and they're facing fresh charges in my town. She then tells me she appreciates this knowledge. Now, while I was up at their house one evening, I talked to one one of the neighbors, who also, by the way, hates them. They're always yelling at their kids and at each other, and I convinced the neighbor to call me if they see the vehicle outside. And you know what? It took one day. I get the call, I send a very large friend who lives nearby them to go and get the vehicle. After many expletives, as well as berating my friend, they thankfully hand over the vehicle, but not before finally calling me while he was there and telling me how they're gonna sue me. Now at this point, I'm out quite a bit of money from the ordeal, but here's the best part about it. I just found out that by them living out of state, they violated their probation, and they just got sentenced to 30 days in jail for that. And they just had their video court date with a local judge on the new charges of the bounce check. So in the end, I got my vehicle back, and guess what? The grandfather in that situation got custody of the two kids. And I've never been more satisfied to get revenge on someone in my life. Wow, that's an awesome story. Not only did you get your car back, but you probably pulled two kids out of an awful situation. Like, these people were clearly not good people in general. They were not only across state lines, but they were also consistently stealing from stores and other people around them. Like, seriously, these people needed to go down. And sure, maybe you made some mistakes along the way, but it really seems like you gave them the benefit of the doubt. And you tried to help them out because, you know, you live in a small community, and you would think that people would try to be honest. So I don't think that's on you in the slightest. You tried to do the right thing and help them out in a time of need. But thankfully, in the end, you not only got your car back, but you got two awful parents put in jail who absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that I would be perfectly capable of doing what she does as a stay-at-home mom? Here's what happened. So I have a wife and a daughter. I work in finance, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom, as I earn sufficient money for the both of us. My wife is a great stay-at-home mom and takes great care of our house. I was lucky to buy a home, as I earn well in a medium cost of living city. I love my wife, but she finds it humorous to say that I am incapable of doing household tasks. We had agreed that she would do them when we decided she would be a stay-at-home mom, but I do stuff occasionally when we are both home if she asks me to do it. But then, if I say load the dishwasher for her, she will claim I did it wrong just because I do it differently than she does. The other day we were eating, and she told me about her day and how she went grocery shopping and optimized the cost by buying specific items at specific stores and accounting for the cost of traveling to each store, and she made an offhanded remark that I would never be able to do that and said it in a kind of way to imply that I wouldn't know what to do with myself without her. I replied back saying that of course I could do it. I handle complex decisions and calculations at my work, as I work in finances, and I have a master's degree, and what I do involves way more intellect than household operations, even though I acknowledge and appreciate what she does. In the end though, I would be capable if the roles were reversed. She got angry and seemed to think I was calling her stupid when I wasn't, and then she began to cry, and now I feel like a complete jerk. She said she was a very good student, and had she graduated, she would be in my position as well. My wife and I met in college, but she was an international student studying physics and computer science, but she had issues with her loan from her home country and could not afford to complete it, and we ended up getting married so that she could stay. Initially, she wanted to complete it later after finding the funds, but she agreed to be a stay-at-home mom when I got a good job, and I appreciate that a lot, as we were able to have a kid early on, even while I was both completing my master's degree and working full-time. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, it really does sound like you're the jerk in this situation. Your wife sounds like a very smart woman who wasn't able to finish college because of money. There's no other reason why she couldn't finish college. It wasn't her first option to be a stay-at-home mom. She very easily could be in your position. You really need to understand that. And based on the way you reacted to the things she said, you clearly completely missed the joke. She was obviously joking that you wouldn't be able to handle the stuff that she does every day. She's clearly trying to make the best out of a situation that she probably doesn't enjoy. She clearly wants to complete her studies, and yet here she is as a stay-at-home mom trying to shop in the most optimal way. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but the way the wife was speaking did not seem disrespectful or in any way some kind of jab at you personally. Like, I really don't think she was trying to call you stupid or incapable or anything like that. I think personally that this was just a tongue-in-cheek moment and you completely missed the joke. So you know what? I don't blame her for crying. If I was in that situation and I couldn't complete my degree and I was living far below my intellectual potential, I would be really upset too. If I was in her shoes, I would probably want to go back
back to school and finish my degree. It's great that you earn enough money for the both of you, but your workload is something you agreed to just as much as she agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. So seriously, you need to apologize. What you did was incredibly rude and completely uncalled for, and she has every right to be upset considering the circumstances. My entitled manager demands that me and my coworker make it back home as soon as possible, so we decide to maliciously comply, costing the company a lot of money in the process. Here's what happened. In my role as a team lead at an engineering company, I had 3 years of experience under my belt before a new manager stepped in. Unfortunately, this manager didn't seem to grasp the company's operations or bother to learn about our work environment. One day, a significant training session was scheduled with a client in a city located about 1,000 kilometers away. To make sure that we were well prepared, my colleague and I took a flight the previous night, aiming to be at the client's office by 8 a.m. start time. On the day of the training, we arrived promptly at 8 o'clock, joining representatives from other firms in the conference room. However, as the minutes ticked by, it became evident that something was amiss. 8:30 came and went, followed by 9 o'clock, and then 9:30. Feeling increasingly puzzled, we decided to step out and ask the reception about the delay. It wasn't until 11 o'clock a.m. that we learned the unfortunate truth. The trainer had fallen ill, and the training session had been canceled. With a mix of disappointment and determination, my colleague and I swung into action. I called up the airline to rearrange our flights, while my colleagues contacted the hotel. The hotel graciously allowed us to stay an extra day without any additional charges, and the airline accommodated our flight changes without any penalties. In a twist of fate, we managed to salvage the situation by arranging a dinner with local colleagues and even getting some client project managers to join us. Armed with our well-devised plan, I reached out to my former boss to fill him in. He agreed with our approach, but reminded me to loop in the new manager. And here's where the story takes a bit of a turn. When we informed the new manager of our strategy, he reacted in a rather explosive manner. It seemed like he was more interested in yelling at us rather than listening to our explanations. Despite our attempts to clarify the situation, he insisted that we return immediately, showing no willingness to understand our point of view. It was at this junction that we decided to comply, even if it was going to be with a twist. So we went to the hotel and checked out by 4 p.m. They charged us for another night, which we accepted with a resigned nod. At the airport, the airline informed us about the additional fee for changing our flights, which we accepted with a knowing smile. To our surprise, the airline then announced a delay due to a technical issue with the plane. Passengers who agreed to wait would receive food credits, and that's when we saw an opportunity and we took it. As time wore on, our flights were further delayed, and at around 11:30 p.m., I couldn't resist the urge to send an email asserting that we'd be back in the office when we were ready. Frustration mingled with a sense of amusement as I hit the send button. We finally made it home at about 1:30 a.m. the next day, a journey that cost the company extra money and disrupted our local meetings, which could have salvaged the situation. The following day brought a face-to-face encounter with a new manager. He summoned me to his office and began berating me for our actions, but I stood my ground, calmly explaining our decisions and circumstances that led to them. Slowly, his demeanor shifted from aggression to understanding as he began to grasp the bigger picture. A few months later, I decided it was time to move on from the company. During my farewell, the manager approached me and awkwardly asked if our strained relationship played a role in my decision. Without hesitation, I looked him in the eye and I confirmed that it was indeed a main factor. Although it made for an uncomfortable farewell lunch, it was honestly an incredibly satisfying moment. Good for you for standing your ground and telling them exactly what's up. This guy clearly ruined this job for you. I mean, come on, why would he be like, you gotta get home right away? Like, seriously, this guy's weird. He could have easily been like, oh, no problem, no expense to the company. Sure, just stay the extra night, I don't care. Also, the fact that you were organizing some kind of training with clients, or at least some kind of dinner get-together to try and salvage the botched training, that in and of itself should have been a good thing that your manager was seeing. But instead, he decided to be an entitled jerk. He decided to have a power trip and be like, no, you've got to come home right away, even though there was literally no reason to act that way. Like, seriously, I would have left this job as well. There's no way I would have put up with that and have to answer to some weird manager who's just gonna be a stick in the mud pretty much no matter what. So honestly, good for you for finding a better job, as well as getting away from this weird entitled manager. An entitled tenant at our local property decides to complain and report our property for even the smallest of things.
so we decide to maliciously comply to all of his demands, making him wish he had just kept his mouth shut. And I've never been happier to get back at anybody in my life. Here's what happened. My parents had a few rental properties. One was a 3-story Victorian house divided into apartments. 2 of the neighbors didn't like that it was a rental. One was often referred to as Mayor because he spent most of his time going around the neighborhood telling people how to do everything, from mowing their lawn to pruning shrubs, whatever he saw that he didn't like. I had friends on the local cemetery maintenance crew, and they had stories about him, and they're the ones that gave him the title of Mayor. He would come up there regularly to tell them what they were doing wrong and what they should do instead. The other neighbor was a childhood friend of his and never had any complaints of his own, but always backed up anything his friend said in any complaints. The neighbor didn't like that it was a rental, so he complained constantly. In addition to phone calls and personal confrontations, he went to borough council meetings to complain and submitted complaints to enforcement for anything that they could find. We once got fined because the address numbers painted on the trash cans were basically off by only a few inches. He started to complain about the house needing paint, and at first he didn't have any luck, but eventually he prevailed, and we got the order to paint the place. We didn't have a lot of money, so my folks went to the local paint place and purchased all the stuff they wanted to get rid of. So stuff like returns or things that didn't mix right, whatever they could get, and even had a few painters donate their leftovers. I spent hours in the sun hand mixing the paint that was poured into a huge trash can, and once it was mixed, it was poured back into the cans ready to paint the house. It turned out to be a bright pink color. We started to paint the house, and the color was not well received at all. The neighbor and his friend went to the Bureau Council meetings to get it to stop. They complained to the code compliance people, and the answer was that there was nothing in the code that states what color a house has to be painted, only that it must be reasonably maintained. They also said that you asked for the house to be painted, so guess what? You're getting what you asked for. And honestly, this guy absolutely had it coming. Honestly, that's such a weird way to treat people. Like seriously, just deal with the house and just live there. There's no reason to freak out and be a weirdo over the place that you live in. You already live in a really cool house as it is, so the fact that you want to cause everybody there all this trouble is honestly just really disturbing to me. And I also love that the local enforcement couldn't do anything about it. They basically just said, well, sorry, you wanted them to paint it, so now they're painting it. You're just gonna have to learn to live with the color. And that honestly is really funny to me. Not that you had a weird color on the house, but mostly the fact that this guy didn't like the color. So good for you for maliciously complying, because this tenant was being a weirdo and he absolutely had this coming. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that she doesn't have a say in how the household is run because she doesn't provide any rent? Here's what happened. So I have 2 daughters. My first daughter, by the name of Sarah, is 24 years old. She has a job but lives at home. She pays $500 for rent monthly. My 22-year-old daughter, by the name of Lily, has autoimmune issues, heart issues, and got a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome 2 years ago. Lily considers herself disabled and says her fatigue is too severe to work. Yesterday, Lily and I got into an argument about what decisions she gets to make in the household. We recently downgraded to an apartment after her father and I got a divorce. Lily did not get to see the new place before we moved and was with a relative during the moving process, so I decided who got which room. I chose the biggest room. Sarah chose the smallest room, but the size difference isn't huge between the rooms. Lily claims she wasn't upset that she didn't get the biggest room, but was upset that she didn't get input in the discussion and says she felt like she doesn't have any say in the decisions of the house or any personal space. She cited an example a few days ago when she took the car keys in after a doctor's appointment, and I walked into the bathroom while she was in it to ask for the keys. She asked if she could finish, but I told her I needed the keys right then to see a friend. She felt it was inappropriate that her personal space was intruded upon and that I came in without knocking. She comes into my room without knocking to ask questions, so I do not see how it's such a big deal. I also told her simply I get the biggest room and I get to decide who gets what in this house because I am the mother. I then asked Lily, since she doesn't contribute rent to the household, what exactly does she contribute? She listed simple chores and other tasks that she does that were very basic that honestly an 11-year-old could do. She claimed because of her chronic illnesses, it is hard for her to do much and she gets very fatigued very easily. I told her if she contributed rent money, she would have more power in family decision making. Lily started to cry and said she is currently trying to get on disability, but that is a long process. She also said I was being unfair because I know she has been sleeping 12 to 20 hours a day. I told her I understand it's hard that she currently can't contribute money, but that's just the reality of it. She pressed to still be included in household decisions, and I asked her if she really thought we were equals. She said yes, which was a surprise to me. I am the adult of the household and the sole provider. My child is my child, but I do not view her as an equal. Later, Sarah told me that Lily had a conversation with their father, and he called me an absolute jerk. I've told Lily multiple times in the past that if she's so unhappy here, she is free to live with him, but she claims she cannot because he moved across the country and she doesn't want to leave her team of doctors here. So am I the jerk in this matter? What should I do? Yes, you absolutely are the jerk. Your daughter isn't pretending to be disabled. She's not choosing to have these issues. She literally is disabled. She wouldn't be applying for it if it wasn't the reality. Like, honestly, this is not her fault. She did not choose this life. This literally was inflicted upon her by illnesses that she cannot control. And the fact that you're not more compassionate about her situation and that you don't see her as an adult or as an equal is really disturbing. Like, I'm sorry to say this, but you do not sound like a very kind, compassionate, or good mother at all. You literally walked in on her while she's using the bathroom and asked for the keys instead of waiting, 5 minutes? You could have at least knocked first, like, come on. And her walking into the bedroom is not the same as the bathroom. You are literally old enough to know the difference, and you shouldn't have done that. I'm honestly even questioning if the original poster even likes their daughter. Like, you're treating her horribly. You act as if she's a child and she can't do anything, when in reality, she's an adult who has limitations that she cannot control. So yes, you are the jerk in this situation. You are completely dismissing the reality of your daughter's situation, and the way you're treating her is absolutely unacceptable. An entitled Karen demands a special line just for herself at the grocery store, claiming that she deserves special treatment and that if we don't help her, she's gonna get us in trouble with corporate. Here's what happened. So this happened earlier this week, and honestly, we just got extremely slammed by customers. As luck would have it, I was the only management in the store that could run the service desk and the register at the same time. Our store manager had a family emergency and needed to leave early. The assistant store manager was also off that day, and my front-end manager had a doctor's appointment. I made the decision to close the service desk due to the fact that my 3 cashiers were not able to keep up with the constant flow of customers. I then pulled the one bagger that is cross-trained to a register. I called the 2 daytime stock people to help bag, plus our floral person and our general merchandise person to also help bag. The other 2 baggers were tag teaming on bagging and keeping carts inside. So in total, I had 5 registers open and a bagger and a runner for every lane. For 2 solid hours, at no point did we have less than 5 people waiting at each checkout. In that time, we not only met, but exceeded our sales goal for the whole day, with several hours still left for the store to be open. There was no way to have predicted this. It happened during what is usually our dead zone, and all departments use that time to regroup and restock. To say that it was a madhouse is the biggest understatement that I could possibly make. Anyways, back to the service desk. I put up a sign saying the service desk was closed. If I saw anyone lingering, I would send one of the people that was bagging to inquire what they needed and to inform them that it would be open at a certain time later in the day. Thankfully, most did linger but were understanding and just wanted to buy a lottery ticket. So instead, they were directed to the self-service machine. The few that wanted money services were understanding that they could come back a little bit later. No one wanted refunds or exchanges, because if they did, I would have had to shut down my register just to help them. That is, except for one lady. After she was waiting at the desk for about 10 minutes, I sent a coworker to see what she wanted, and she told him that she was just waiting. Another 10 minutes go by, and I send Jane to see what she wanted. She asked if Jane could run to the desk, to which she replied no, as I'm the only person that could do that and I'm currently on a register. So she said that she would wait. 20 minutes later, and we could see that it was starting to slow down. I announced my lane was closing so I could attend the service desk. We had 2 to 3 people at each register, but it was manageable with 4. It still probably took me another 5 minutes to clear my line, so this lady had to wait a good 45 minutes, standing in the exact same spot. So I go up to her and I say, "Hi, I'm really sorry for the wait. How can I help you?" And when this Karen started talking, I honestly was blown away by her entitlement. She looks at me and says, "I need to be checked out." She then shoves her small pile of groceries further back onto the desk towards me. Now, I just paused for a second to try and process what she had just said to me. I then said, "I'm sorry, but we do not check out groceries at the service desk. The service desk is for inquiries, refunds, and exchanges, as well as money services or laundry. You will have to go through a register to purchase your items." This entitled Karen then says to me, "I can't stand that long. I need to pay here." For starters, starters, she doesn't have a card or any mobility aid, and secondly, she was walking all over the store without a cart or a handbasket, and she carried everything all over the place just to wait here for 45 minutes. I say to her, again, I'm sorry, but we do not check out groceries here. The entitled Karen said, do you have a disability lane, a self-checkout, or at least an express lane? I then point to a register and say, that one meets our requirements for a disabled lane, as there is extra room for mobility aids. We do not have self-checkout, and the express lanes are not open, as we do not have enough cashiers at this time. The entitled Karen then starts to raise her voice. She says, well, then that register needs to be only used by people who need it, like me. Now, I can't stand in lines that long. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you $40. That should be more than enough to cover this. Then you can just ring them up at a register later and keep whatever is left. At this point, my mouth is literally hanging open, and my eyes are wide at what she literally just said to me. I say to her, no ma'am, that is not how this is gonna work. How this actually works is that if you want these groceries, you have to take them to an actual register where they scan them, tell you the total, you pay, and then leave. I can get you a cart if you need something to lean against, but you have to go through a checkout lane. If you do not want to, you can leave your items here, and we can put them back later when the night crew comes in. The entitled Karen wasn't having it. She started screeching, I know my rights as a disabled person, and you have to make accommodations for me. Now just go over there and open that express lane and check me out. I say to her, ma'am, this store is ADA compliant with the auto open doors, a ramp at the entrance and the exit, disabled parking, we have 3 electric carts, and a wheelchair for customer use, along with a lane with extra room. The express lanes are not going to be opened, and they are actually shut down and would take about 20 minutes just to boot up. This Karen then says the magic words, get me a manager right now. I look at her and I say, well, as you can clearly see on my name tag, it says that I'm the shift manager. At this time, I'm the highest ranking manager in the store. If you wish to speak with another one, I will be glad to call produce or dairy for their manager. But they ultimately report to me in the absence of the actual store managers, so I'm not sure what good it will do you. Now, ma'am, this has wasted a good 15 minutes of my time. This means you have stood here for a good hour. None of the registers have more than 2 people at them at this time. In fact, our ADA compliant lane has 1 person. You can either join them or leave the items here. Now, at this point, I walked over to the phone that has been ringing nonstop for over 2 hours to deal with those unhappy customers. After I said all that, this lady finally went over to the register where she complained loudly the entire time about the store, customer service, and how we did not accommodate disabled people. And unfortunately, this is not the end of the story. I had already sent out a group text message to the front-end management team, which included the store manager and the assistant. The assistant pulled the camera footage from that time, watched her walk all over the store just fine, and completely unaided, get in line for a few minutes, get out, wander back around the store, go to the desk, take a picture of the closed sign at the service desk, proceed to read 2 newspapers, and then throw them in the trash, and be at the service desk for 67 minutes. Then, finally, to a register where she checked out in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. The assistant also pulled our times and our average checkout for the day, and it was 2 minutes and 39 seconds, along with our hourly sales report. She was well prepared to go to corporate if the customer service was called. Eventually, customer service had a good laugh about the whole situation, but did say to try and use our express lanes when busy like that, but I refused to use them as they are only 15 items or less. People just ignore that and then things back up even further. But honestly, I'm so glad that nothing came of this, and hopefully we never have to deal with her ever again. Wow, that lady seriously was super entitled. Not only did she sit in the wrong lane for an hour, she then tried to claim that she was too disabled to wait in line for what, 2 minutes? I mean, from the sounds of it, the registers were going really fast. It's not like they weren't gonna get in and get out relatively quickly. It seems like this entitled Karen just wanted to be difficult and wanted to get some kind of special privilege simply because she was standing there the entire time. I mean, she literally stood there for 45 minutes. She could have gotten in and out in no time, but instead she wanted to try and cause problems and ask for a manager. So good for the original poster for putting this entitled Karen in their place. The way she was acting was super inappropriate, but the original poster handled it like a pro. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. I am absolutely livid after my husband brought home a new puppy, even though I told him that we're not ready to have a dog, and I'm afraid of the breed that he bought. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been married for 6 years now, and we moved to a new state last year for my job. I work about 60 hours per week, so my husband spends a lot of time on his own. He brought up getting a dog when we first moved to this new state, specifically a Doberman. He had a dog as a child, and his parents had to give it away. It's really important for him to have a dog as an adult. Initially, I was very much against it. I'm terrified of big dogs, and I'm not much of an animal person at all. Ultimately, I saw how important this was for him, and I asked him to hold off until we can rent or purchase a home. This way, the dog would have a backyard to play in, and there would be enough space in the house so that the dog and I wouldn't be on top of each other. He seemed to understand my reasoning and decided to buy a fish instead. Fast forward 1 year later, we live in a different apartment, and he tells me that he put down a deposit on a Doberman. Once again, I told him that I'm scared of big dogs. He responded that it's a puppy, and I won't be scared of it when it's an adult-sized dog because I'll see how it grows up. We had a big fight, and I told him our apartment is way too small for a Doberman, and to please hold off until we can either rent or buy a house once our current lease ends in June of 2024. Our apartment also doesn't allow Doberman breeds, but I found out from our property manager that he got a letter from a doctor saying he needs an emotional support animal even though he's never struggled with any mental illness. He told me that he did not need my consent or permission to get a dog, and that he's always wanted a dog, so he was just gonna get one. Since I seemed to get nowhere communicating verbally, I wrote him a letter expressing my feelings, and he told me that he'd reach out to the breeder to try and stop the purchase. I thought everything had been sorted out, and I was happy that he seemed to hear my concerns. Well, he went on a work trip on Tuesday, and when he returned on Wednesday, he had a dog with him. He did not tell me that he could not cancel his purchase. He did not tell me that he planned to bring the dog back with him, and now I feel utterly betrayed by his actions. I love this man so much, but I want a divorce because he has shown that he is self-serving, deceitful, and puts his own desires to have a Doberman above my fear of having them. At no point has he apologized or acknowledged how messed up his actions are, or even find a way to rehome the puppy. I feel horrible because he values this dog that he's had for 2 days over his marriage that he has with me. Am I overreacting in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're overreacting in the slightest. Your husband breached a very serious boundary. He completely ignored you when it comes to having a dog in your home. And yes, you both do live there, so the fact that he's just completely ignoring your side of this is incredibly sketchy. Like, that is really not okay behavior. It's like he took the letter that you wrote and basically said, no, we're gonna ignore that. Instead, I'm just gonna get the dog and my wife is just gonna have to deal with it. I mean, you're afraid of big dogs. And you even laid out a plan of like, hey, let's wait until we have a house or we're renting a house or something like that. That way we can actually have the dog and we're not stuck in a small apartment dealing with the dog. Like, why couldn't there have been some kind of compromise for a smaller breed? You're obviously not in a place right now to have a dog of this size, and it seems like there's no agreement on having one in the first place. Like, seriously, your husband is being an absolute jerk right now. He completely ignored you and he just did this because he wanted it, without even considering how you feel in the first place. So overall, in my opinion, no, you have not overreacted. This guy completely crossed a boundary that you very clearly spelled out for him, and that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for ordering a giant steak against my mother-in-law's will? Here's what happened. So first and foremost, this is ridiculous, and I can't believe that I have to ask if I was the jerk in this situation. So I've been together with my husband for over 10 years, and we've been married for over 4. I don't have the best relationship with my mother-in-law, as she always seems to police what I eat. Everyone in my family has a fast metabolism. I also work with horses on a daily basis, so due to this, I burn a lot of calories. I'm talking like usually almost 3,000 a day. So usually I have very large meals to get my energy back, and I still remain very skinny. Now with that bit of context out of the way, let's get started with the event. My in-laws invited me and my husband for dinner last Friday. I was very busy back then, and I hadn't eaten since about 6 or 7 in the morning, and also didn't have a chance to get a snack before heading to the restaurant. So needless to say, I was very much starving. I mean, I usually have something to eat before seeing my mother-in-law anyways, just to avoid her making some kind of comment towards me. So because of this, I decided to order a large steak at the restaurant, and this is one that was meant for about 2 people. It also came with prawns, bacon, and 2 sides. It's also important to note that it was not the most expensive item on the menu, since some of my in-laws had significantly pricier dishes. Plus, we were all splitting the bill, so it should have been fine. My mother-in-law started making comments how I shouldn't be ordering what I can't eat, since even her husband wouldn't be able to finish the dish, let alone someone of my size. I smiled and said I haven't eaten since earlier in the morning, and I'm honestly really starving. If I don't finish the steak, I will take the leftovers sleepovers home with me. Fast forward and I have easily finished my steak and I was waiting for my dessert. And that is right about when my mother-in-law flipped out. She said, I'm just seeking attention and I was putting on a show. She also said, I have always made my father-in-law and brother-in-law feel very uneasy and that a woman shouldn't eat that much, as she thinks that it's unhealthy and that something has to be wrong with me. She then demanded that my husband and I cover the entire bill, as she wasn't planning on such a big expenditure. I said we are absolutely not covering the entire bill since it was meant to be split equally, while also reminding her that the dish she ordered was significantly more expensive compared to my steak. So as a result, I was called a jerk who has completely ruined the family dinner. My husband is on my side, but most of my in-laws are making very passive-aggressive posts on social media about it and keep sending me different articles of what might be causing excessive eating. So honestly, am I the jerk for ordering a giant steak against my mother-in-law's will? No, you're not the jerk here. Your mother-in-law's just being super weird. First of all, I honestly cannot stand when people act like this. You're just trying to eat your food, meanwhile your mother-in-law's trying to police what you eat. Like, I'm sorry, that's just super obnoxious. Like, just mind your own business and eat your own food. If this small petite lady wants to eat this giant steak and all these sides, well then let her. And the original poster even said, hey, if I don't finish it, I'm gonna take it home with me. Like, seriously, what's the big deal? And you know for a fact she only said those hateful things towards you and your husband because you literally proved her wrong. You, this tiny woman, suddenly said, okay, I can't finish the steak, how about you watch this? And then you clean that plate completely. Like, that's hilarious to me. And the fact that you showed her up is probably the only reason she's mouthing off to you and your husband. So no, you absolutely did nothing wrong. Your mother-in-law's a weirdo, and if anything, she's the one who seems to have a problem, and she's got nobody to blame except herself. An entitled customer gets really weird and freaks out on me after I suggest that he buys one of our products on Amazon simply because it would be cheaper. Here's what happened. So I used to work in a specialist running retailer where we sold running shoes, clothing, and accessories. What set us apart was that a lot of our staff were runners, and we really took our time with customers to make sure they got the right things. A lot of the time, we'd be talking people down from buying the most expensive shoes or jackets, or even the most expensive watch, just to help them with their running if they really didn't need it, or if it would be actively bad for them. For example, very expensive shoes that did not match their foot shape, so it would likely cause blisters. As you can imagine, this used to take a lot of people by surprise that we wouldn't just automatically sell them the wrong thing just to make more money. So we built a lot of trust and got a lot of repeat customers that way. Well, eventually the company grew, and we got taken over as the original boss sold up to enjoy their early retirement. I'm working in one of the shops one day and a customer comes in asking for a really obscure accessory for a running watch. He knows what it is, but is only fairly sure it'll do what he wants it to do, and wants to see if we've got one, which is fair enough. I check and we don't, because it really is obscure. It's not even registered as a product on our system, and knowing how the special ordering system works for non-stock items is, I'd let him know that it will take about 2 weeks to get in, and if it doesn't work for him, he'll just be stuck with it. But Amazon has loads of them. He could probably get it by tomorrow, and they can sell it for a lot cheaper than we can buy it. Plus, there are tons of options for returns if he really wants to go that route. I say to him that it's the best option to go down that route, as it will be quicker, cheaper, and less risky for him that way. This is quite honestly the type of advice the company was built on. If there's a better way for the customer to do something, let them know exactly what it is. This guy's response was to almost well up in tears and anger, and then said to me the following: "So you're telling me that you won't order me one in? I just can't believe it. You guys have really gone downhill since you were taken over." And I just thought to myself, yeah, okay, buddy. Sorry for giving you the same sort of advice that has built the company's reputation for over 30 years. And that is the only time I actually laughed at the ridiculousness of someone else's comments right in front of their face. I am honestly really surprised that the customer got upset at this guy. Like, seriously, they're just trying to help him out. They literally are trying to help you save money, but you want to sit there and act like, wow, you're refusing me service. Like, no, they're not. They're literally trying to give you the best deal possible. Like, this guy really wants to pay extra on an accessory that they don't have when he could get it tomorrow on Amazon. Like, are you serious right now? I understand loyalty to a store that you really enjoy, but if you can get a better deal somewhere else and it's a lot cheaper, why would you not go that route? And look, I totally get it. Some people want to shop local, but you know what? Giving out advice to say, hey, it's going to be cheaper on Amazon, you should just go there. That is not the mark of a bad customer service situation. If anything, it shows that you care about the customer, and that's all the original poster was doing. They were literally just trying to help the customer out, and the fact that this guy had a problem with that is honestly mind-blowing. So I don't think he did anything wrong in this situation, and if anything, the customer is just being a giant weirdo. My friend complained to our boss about me, and now because of this betrayal, I no longer want to be friends with her at all. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I've known my friend Sarah for a while now. Sarah is not her real name. We met about 7 years ago when we both started working in the same industry, and we were friendly acquaintances for all that time. A few years ago, a job came up at my work, and I recommended Sarah to get that job. I told my bosses she would be a perfect fit, and then eventually she did end up getting that job. For the last 3 years or so, things have been great. Myself and Sarah are in a small team of 2 people, and we work really well together. I would comfortably say that we're friends as well as colleagues. I've met her husband, we buy each other birthday presents, and we talk and text about work and personal stuff all the time. That is until recently when we had a regular performance review with our boss. We have reviews every year, and our boss works in a different office, so he had to come to our location that day. I had mine before Sarah, and I told my boss that things were going great. Sarah had hers and didn't really mention how it went. Fast forward a few days, and my boss was back in our office for some reason and asked if I had a second just to have a chat. He said something had been raised in someone else's performance review and then suggested to me that I should change the way I do my job in several highly specific ways. He's not familiar with the workflows and processes that Sarah and I have, so it was very strange that he was suddenly suggesting changes in granular detail. When I asked him where this had come from, he said that it had come from Sarah, who had told him that the way I was doing my job was stressing her out. I was absolutely flabbergasted that she complained to our boss without raising this to me first. When I went back to my desk, I asked Sarah what she had told him, and she said she didn't mention my name, but did say that she was stressed. She was extremely defensive, and it was very awkward. Part of Sarah's personality is she complains constantly about her husband, her family, her in-laws, other people in our industry, people around the office she finds incompetent, random people she encounters, and random inconveniences in her life. I always accepted this as a personality quirk of a friend, but I feel like she's pivoted to complaining about me exactly the same way she complains about everyone else. I don't want anything to do with her after she went behind my back like this. After this happened, we both went back to work and kind of mutually pretended that nothing was wrong, just to try and get through the day. She even went back to complaining to me about things in her life, including her husband. This feels like a completely immature thing to say, but I just don't want to be friends with her anymore. I don't want to be an emotional sponge for her frequent problems when she has no issues at all with stabbing me in the back, all because she apparently felt stressed out. Is it too immature to tell her I want to be colleagues only from now on? I'm uncomfortable that I've told her a bunch of personal stuff about myself, and now she might just go tell everybody else. How do I even begin to navigate this situation? What should I do? Honestly, when it comes to this Sarah lady, I think it's time to go on an information diet. It's time to cut off the tap and say, you know what? No more. I'm not going to tell you anything else about myself because you're just going to use that as ammo against me. I mean, she went behind your back and complained to your boss. She basically got you in trouble without talking to you first. Like, her loyalties are clearly on display, and that is honestly so unfortunate. She literally threw you under the bus for no good reason. And also, that goes to show you that when you're around somebody who only ever complains about everything else around them, as well as someone who openly talks bad about people around you, then you can know for a fact that she's absolutely doing the same about you behind your back. People like Sarah in this situation are just terrible people. They are not real friends, and they are not the kind of people you want to open up to. So if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't explicitly say, hey, I don't want to be friends anymore, but I would absolutely slowly fade out of that situation, because you deserve much better friends than that. And this lady is only going to try and stab you in the back again if she has a chance. My wife's entitled mother demands $1,000 from me and my wife, claiming that she's going to move in with us and that we absolutely have to help her out. And we are so blown away by this entitlement, and at this point, we don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I'm married to a 26-year-old female by the name of Carol, and her mother, Danielle, is 61 years old and is a complete bag of garbage, and that's the nicest thing I could possibly say. During Carol's childhood, Danielle would always belittle Carol and manipulate her into the most ridiculous things, mostly always claiming that her father abandoned them in Colorado to seek fame and fortune in California and refusing to pay child support, whereas she would actually spend said child support on her own self, buying books and clothing, and not supporting her daughter. Danielle also changed Carol's last name on Social Security to Danielle's last name when she was just a little kid, which made it incredibly difficult for Carol to find another job as an adult because she was an illegal alien to the US government. That meant that she had one last name on her birth certificate and a different last name on her Social Security card. Danielle also had a very horrible job that didn't pay the best, and had to get an apartment with Carol under Carol's name because Danielle had awful credit and Carol had a 0 credit score because she was 18 years old at the time and didn't have her own bills to pay. Danielle keeps getting on Carol's case about not having a job, but Carol said that she couldn't because of the name issue. They ended up getting evicted due to failure to pay rent because Danielle's job wasn't enough to pay for a luxury apartment, with them eventually having to move in with grandma. Danielle later lost her job during COVID and has been unemployed ever since. And trust me when I say this, there are many other scenarios in which Danielle absolutely took advantage of Carol. So anyways, back in late 2021, while me and Carol were engaged, she wanted to join the US Navy. She got her name changed to her father's last name on Social Security to match her birth certificate and even gave her recruiter child custody papers to prove her name. She enlisted, got through basic training, completed her A schooling, and got her orders to serve on a ship. We got married in September 2022 before she was shipped to Virginia for her new orders. While Carol was serving, I spent time packing my belongings to move out to Virginia myself. I then learned that Danielle is going to therapy to possibly move on, or so I imagined. I tried so hard to stay away from her during that time, but she was always bugging me, wondering why Carol wasn't talking to her during the day. I let her know on repeated occasions that she has no cell service on her ship, but to her, this is one of those situations where it was in one ear and right out the other one. She simply wouldn't listen. I eventually made it to Virginia in December 2022 just to be with Carol, and trust me when I say this, we have been ignoring all of Danielle's calls for quite a while. Fast forward to April, and Carol gets a text message from Danielle asking her to call her so they can have a talk. They talk on the phone for a while, and Carol learns that her grandma is not doing well. I also get my brother's high school graduation invite in the mail, and I want to see him graduate in May, which means Carol wants to see her grandma because she fears that she may not make it to the end of 2023. Danielle seemed to be super nice, and Carol and I both thought that she changed because of all the therapy that she had been getting. So last week, we fly back to Colorado, and Danielle loans us her car while we're there, and was being way too nice to us like a decent human being. We see my brother walk across the stage, and Carol gets to see her grandma. While there, we learn that grandma wants to move into a more safer place with Carol's aunt because of her health. And that means that Danielle has to move somewhere else because in her eyes, apparently everyone doesn't want to talk to her because the family doesn't like her. We told her that if we weren't living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of the country, then we could help her. Again, she starts being even nicer to us while still in Colorado. I even warned Carol that her being nice could mean something bad in the future, given her past behavior, and thankfully Carol agreed. A few days after we flew back to Virginia, which was 5 days ago, Carol gets a text message from Danielle saying that she's gonna have to live in her car because nobody is willing to help her out. Carol asked her why she can't just get a job and get her own apartment, and she said that she can't get a job at her age and that it's been too long, while also saying that it's very expensive to live on your own, especially in Colorado. Carol told her that we unfortunately can't help her because for one, we live in a small apartment, and for two, we live 7 states away on the other side of the country. So now here we are today. I'm at work and I get a call from Carol saying that she needs to be with me. I ask if everything's okay because I can tell that she's not doing well. She said she would like to talk about it when she gets there. 30 minutes later, she shows up and I go on my lunch break with her. She tells me that her mom literally asked for $1,000 just to help her move from Colorado to Virginia so that she could be with us. $1,000. We told her multiple times we couldn't help her because we don't have that kind of room. And we let alone don't have $1,000 just to give away because we literally live paycheck to paycheck. I was so flabbergasted. And Carol told me that her being super nice in recent times was way too good to be true, which is what I felt would happen. She either didn't get the therapy she needed or she just completely lied. I wasn't around for this part, but Carol and Danielle argued over the phone. More like cussing each other out per se. Danielle was upset with Carol for not providing a home for her when she did it for her for the first 20 years of her life. And now Carol just can't return the favor. Carol then told her mother to just get lost already before hanging up and blocking her completely. Danielle is now homeless and is living out of her car, but we literally couldn't care less. All those years Carol had to endure due to her mother's entitlement as well as her narcissistic behavior is now biting her straight in the butt. And nobody wants to live with her because of this, because that lady only cares about herself and also knows that what she's doing is wrong, but literally doesn't care. And at this point, I don't care if she ever passes away, because you know what? I'm never showing up at her funeral. Yeah, that mom sounds incredibly entitled. entitled. Like seriously, the original poster does not have a lot of money to throw around, especially $1,000 off the bat. Living paycheck to paycheck is no joke. It's really difficult and a lot of people do it. So that means that they don't have any kind of savings stored up. They're depending on this job and they have to make it work. So truly, I'm so sorry to the original poster and their wife for the garbage that they have to endure through Carol's mother. She is not a good person. She clearly had an agenda while you were in Colorado, and she just wanted to butter you two up just so she could move into your one-bedroom apartment, as if that place isn't already crowded enough. So hopefully you never have to deal with her ever again, and hopefully she gets the message and moves on with her life and changes her ways. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. My mom blatantly doesn't believe me when I tell her that my arm is broken, but she gets proven wrong very quickly once we go to the hospital and she discovers that no, I'm not faking it, and yes, she should have taken me to the hospital a lot sooner. Here's what happened. So the year was 2000 and I was 9 years old. For context, I'm the oldest of 6. My mom was ready to pop out the 4th at the time, and it was a very hot July day. So my brother, who was 7 at the time, was fighting with me over a box of crackers on the kitchen counter. Now, why were we on the kitchen counter? Who knows? But I'm sure at the time, it seemed like a great place to fight over a box of Cheez-Its. So I'm trying to pull the box away from him, he's trying to pull the box away from me, and eventually he gets the grand idea to push me off the counter. I go tumbling and land hard on my right arm. And even though I was only 9, I'd already broken a leg, my other arm, and all of the toes in both of my feet. I knew what a broken bone felt like, and I was positive that my arm was broken. The problem was I felt almost no pain due to a very high pain tolerance from my rough and tumble childhood. To this day, I have a stupidly high pain tolerance. So I know my arm is broken. I can't move it properly, I can't make a fist, I can't use my fingers. So I go to my mom, who's trying to keep cool from both the weather and my second brother growing inside of her. I say to her, "Mom, I need you to take me to the doctors. My arm is broken and I need a cast." Now, my mom would later on in life become not so great of a mom, but at the time, she was still a pretty okay mom. And looking back on it, I can't really blame her for not believing me at the time. So she shooed me away and said, "I don't want to hear anything else about your arm. You're fine. Stop bothering me." So I said, "Okay then, I'm a good daughter. I won't bother my mom about my arm anymore." The rest of the day goes by with me playing around with my broken arm. I'm holding it up with my other arm while watching TV. I'm holding onto the swing with one arm, and I'm trying to teach myself how to write with my left hand, because who knows how long it will take to heal a broken arm without a doctor. Finally, I have to go to my mom because I need to go to the bathroom, and I can't unbutton my jeans without both my hands. She's been getting more and more annoyed with me as she's watched me baby my arm all day, and she finally snaps at me, telling me that she'll take me to the doctor, but if my arm isn't broken, I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble. I agree, but I'm not too worried because I know for a fact my arm is broken. And right after that, we head to the hospital. The entire ride is spent with my mom coming up with more and more detailed threats. If we get to the doctors, they're just gonna have to give you a big shot. Now at this point, I hate needles, but again, I know my arm is hurt, so I insist that we keep going. We finally get to the hospital and the nurse says to me, "Oh, her arm isn't broken, but we'll give her an x-ray just to humor her." And guess what happened? A complete forearm break. My mom felt horrible. She bought me pizza and candy, something we almost never get, and I didn't have to share any of it with my siblings. So yeah, I don't know if this really counts as true malicious compliance, but I like to think of it as a baby's first steps towards being the sarcastic little jerk that I am today. Wow, that's crazy that your mom didn't actually believe that you broke your arm. Like, obviously you're a kid at the time, and of course kids are gonna do stupid things and believe things that aren't actually true, but at least you can trust your body and say, "No, this is definitely broken. I can't write with my arm, I can't unbutton my pants. Like, this is seriously a problem." So I can only imagine the absolute dread the mom probably went through when she realized, oh wait, they really did break their arm. And it doesn't seem like you have a history of like faking injuries or anything like that, so you would think that your mom would be like, "Oh, you hurt yourself? All right, let's go to the doctor just in case something happened." So thankfully you were able to get some kind of help in this regard, because healing a broken bone without a doctor involved, especially as a kid, is a risky endeavor. And hopefully nothing like that ever happened to you again in your childhood. Am I the jerk for refusing to apologize to my dad's wife for what I said when she was rude to me? Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I'm currently staying with my dad at his summer house. My dad's wife Monica is also here. To be clear, neither Monica nor I have any jobs. Monica has always had an issue with my unemployment. According to my dad, she thinks it shouldn't be the case and that my dad should pressure me to get a job, which he has declined to do so. She has made the odd, thinly veiled comment about it, which I've just completely ignored. Being all that it is, 2 days ago I was out by the pool and Monica came over to sit with me, which was pretty odd. She asked what I planned on doing for the rest of the summer, and I said I was having several friends come and visit after she goes home. She then asked how we all had so much free time, and it turned into this big conversation about work. I was calmly dodging her barbed questions and told her if my dad doesn't care about me having a job, she shouldn't either. Monica then said that even if he wasn't pushing me, he would still be proud of me earning my own money, which frankly completely set me off. I turned to her and said, "Do you think my dad would be proud of me earning money the way you do?" She then got very flustered and went inside. Apparently, she went to my dad in tears and told him what I had said. My dad was initially on my side and said that she should mind her own business, but she's still upset and not really speaking to anyone. My dad says I should now apologize because she's learned her lesson and she won't try it again. But it's time to make peace because she feels uncomfortable. I think she messed around and found out, and that she's now just dragging this out. If I don't need an apology for her inappropriate behavior, I don't see why she needs one for my reaction. And also, for some additional context, I don't live with my dad full time. I visit him during the summer in between traveling because the house is central to a lot of destinations. I don't live with him for the rest of the year. I have a degree, I have 3 qualifications in art and design, and I do internships at fashion and auction houses. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're really the jerk in this situation. It sounds like you're spending the summer with your dad, and this Monica lady really should just mind her own business. Because at the end of the day, she doesn't have a job either. Like, this is really the pot calling the kettle black. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why can't this lady just seriously mind her own business? Is it really a crime to have some kind of time off and enjoy some semblance of a vacation? So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk here. Clearly your dad is okay with you not having a job right now, and it's not like you're mooching off of him all the time. You literally are just visiting him for the summer, and that's all you're actually doing right now. My entitled mother takes the majority of my paycheck every single month, claiming that I owe her simply because she financed my life. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things out, I'm 21 years old and I just graduated college, and I now work full time. I'm not making a horrible amount, but I'm not making a lot of money either. My parents are divorced, and I've been living with my mom since around 2016, which was through the later years of high school and college. She used to be the primary person bringing money in from 2016 to 2019. Then we decided to move cities near some family, one of which, her mother, moved in with us as well. Since we moved, however, she had a nervous breakdown and then hasn't had a stable job lasting more than a month in the past 4 years. Meanwhile, I've been in college on a work scholarship paying the equivalent of $14 an hour for 15 hours of work a week in the form of a scholarship applied directly to the tuition. In addition, I've worked every summer and even worked a part-time job or two during the school year outside of this. Despite the fact that she really wasn't bringing much money in at all, during this whole period, she was claiming she was financing my entire life, and she worked a full-time job in college while being a full-time student. So honestly, why couldn't I do the same? We were primarily getting by through my grandmother's income, which is slightly more than what I make currently, as well as taking out student loans. I was taking out the maximum amount of student loans most semesters just to have some extra money in my bank account, which would invariably be used to pay for bills. There was also some credit card debt, which was accrued by both myself and my grandmother, both paying for expenses as well as through financial mismanagement. Anyways, I graduated and have a full-time office job, and I really want to be able to save money. However, she keeps on asking me for money for bills as well as for her car payment. Now, I don't drive, and she barely does either. She also wants me to give her money for other expenses, for things like makeup and stuff along those lines. It's gotten to the point that 70% of my paycheck is going towards her accounts, which on top of my spending and paying off my own cards, this leaves me breaking even each month with my paychecks, which is a situation I 100% don't want to be in. Additionally, she's not exactly the easiest person to live with, and it's putting considerable mental stress on myself to live with her. Just today, I was feeling unwell, and when I voiced this to her, she proceeded to blame me for eating food that's not the greatest and causing me to feel unwell. I literally find myself wanting to be out of the house as much as I can, just to be away from her. I don't know if it's entitled of me to just move out, or if this is a situation I should legitimately try and leave from. I have a hard time telling myself if this is entitled behavior on my part, or if she's the entitled one in this situation, as I I don't feel like an unbiased observer in my situation. What should I do? First off, I want to say no, you are not the entitled one in this situation. Your mom is taking 70% of your paycheck. That is not normal behavior in the slightest. I mean, if she wants to charge you rent, then sure, go for it. But it shouldn't be 70% of your paycheck. And it sounds like you've got credit card debt as well as other things to pay for. So in my opinion, this is a recipe for disaster. You're not able to save any money, and it seems like your mom is really taking advantage of you. So to give you a good insight into what's going on in your life, no, you would not be entitled to move out and find another place to live. And let's get one thing very clearly straight. It doesn't seem like your mom is financing anything. She is absolutely full of it if she really wants to make that claim. The people that are financing this living situation are you and your grandma. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be moving out. Because right now, your mother is basically just taking all your money from you. And that is not a fair situation for you to be stuck living in. My future husband flies off the handle and has an awful reaction anytime anything goes wrong. And at this point, I'm not sure if I should get married to him, and I seriously don't know what to do. This isn't anything new, but I'm now starting to get really worried. He has always been explosive over anything stressful, and then he'll be super loving and apologetic. I love him, and he's great as long as nothing stressful happens. Last year, I told him he must deal with this, so he went to therapy again. He actually had been going to therapy when I first met him 8 years ago, but I can't see that it's helping much, and I don't know if this is something I just need to learn to live with. Anything stressful sets him off. It can be a minor stress, such as takeout forgetting to include something, or the dog going to the bathroom on the carpet, or me knocking a glass onto the floor and it breaks, all the way up to major stress, like finding out there is mold in the basement, or his credit card getting locked unexpectedly, or his phone dying when he's trying to call an Uber when he's running late for something. But it's always the same. He flips out, shouting or swearing, often blaming me, even if he needs to do some mental gymnastics just for that. Usually things work out, and they do. Or it wasn't all that important in the first place. Nothing ever has had serious consequences. As soon as whatever's wrong is fixed, he calms down and then he apologizes. And then he's very sweet and loving. The issue is that this is a roller coaster and it's exhausting. I can never predict when it will happen because it's usually just random stuff that everyone else deals with. I doubt anyone has a stress-free existence, but his reaction is what makes it so much worse. I am mostly easygoing, but I can get stressed out too at times. But when I do, I might vent to him or cry if I'm feeling overwhelmed. He, on the other hand, will be loud and angry and swearing, and will often start blaming me rather than just venting to me. We've talked about it a lot, and he says he's sorry. He has always dealt with stress like this, and he'll try to stop, but he never does. On the weekend, we were at an amusement park and having a good time, and suddenly he realized he didn't have his jacket and his wallet with him. Both of us immediately started looking for it frantically, but he just kept saying, "What is wrong with you?" Even though of course it wasn't my fault, I'm the one who was wearing his jacket. It's like a knee-jerk response that he's going to blame me. As soon as he found it, he was happy and apologized and expects everything to be hunky-dory, but I'm left reeling from all his anger and swearing and blaming. He then tells me that I just hold on to that anger, which is honestly ridiculous. One time recently, he needed to submit something for a deadline, and his computer kept freezing, and he was so mad. I was quietly trying to suggest a fix, but that enraged him more. He was shouting and swearing, and I honestly felt so much anxiety, but I just sat there and didn't say anything more for the next 10 minutes of this nightmare. In the end, he got it submitted, and he thanked me for reacting perfectly, meaning that I was quiet, and I didn't leave, and I didn't react at all. I don't know how often I can react like that though, because that was exhausting. Is there a way to help him overcome this? Do I need to go to therapy with him? I honestly don't know what to do with this behavior, and I'm desperately searching for some outside opinions. I'm hoping someone with the same issue can give me some insights on how to handle it. What should I do? This does not seem healthy in the slightest. In my opinion, the way he's acting now is probably the way he's going to act the entirety of your marriage. This guy flies off the handle over the smallest things, and then he turns around and tries to blame you for it. Like, this is seriously awful. This is not okay, and this is not a healthy relationship in the slightest. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your relationship. All I know is that if I'm in that kind of situation, there's no way I'm going to stay with that partner. If they're going to shout and swear at me and blame me for stuff I didn't do, then that's a massive red flag that I'm going to see right away. That is a clear indication that this relationship is not going to work out. And unfortunately, this guy seems like he's going to act like this pretty much no matter what. You are always going to be to blame, and the only way you can make this right is by staying quiet and letting him scream and rant. That does
not seem healthy, and that is not something I would want to go into. So truly, I'm really sorry that you're stuck in this kind of situation, because his behavior is clearly a cycle, and if I was in your shoes, I would be avoiding this at all cost.
My employee steals over $60,000 in loans from my business, causing my company massive losses. All the while, this guy runs away thinking he got off scot-free. So I decided to get some revenge by turning the IRS against him, ensuring that everything he stole from me, he would now have to pay taxes on. And I've never been more satisfied by my revenge against this guy in my life. Here's what happened. So about 6 years ago, I started my own consulting business. I am a talented engineer, but I was and am sadly naive about the ways of the world. I came from a nice, loving, suburban background, and my parents taught me that all people are fundamentally good inside, but they are not. To quote Dr. Cox, people are basically jerks coated in jerks with jerk filling. In most cases, I never got any sort of revenge. Eventually, I realized I'm being screwed over, and I would just fire the individual or cut the contract or stuff like that, and then take it as a lesson learned and move on with my life. Except for this one time when I hired a sales guy. For the sake of anonymity, we'll call this guy Tony. Tony is not his real name. Tony swept into my office on a cloud of amazing promises. He had a resume a mile long and many incredible, unlikely, yet somehow plausible stories of his great sales success in past organizations. He wanted to partner with me to take my company to a new level, make more money than we've ever made before. Even better, Tony didn't even want a salary. He simply wanted to be able to take out loans from the company until his big sales pipeline kicked in, and then he would pay it all back from his giant commissions. It was a total win-win for everybody involved. This sounded like an amazing deal. I mean, what a nice guy. He was clearly confident he could close a lot of sales. Or why else would he forego a salary in favor of taking out loans? Well, my dear friends, it's probably obvious how this story goes. Over the course of the next year, Tony supposedly almost made so many huge sales that are totally ready to sign, but somehow they never quite came through. And in that time, he took over $60,000 in loans that he would totally pay me back for as soon as his monster sales finally came through. But finally, after so many big promises with literally zero results, I finally became suspicious. And it's right about then that I realized that this guy was an absolute scam artist. So at this point, I needed to figure out what was going on. So I hacked open his company email account and I saw that in fact, he had never even sent an email to a client ever. In fact, the only emails he ever sent were to me and other people in my business talking himself up. All of his leads were utterly fake. He had never talked to a single client a single time in a year. So after finding out that information, I fired him and I set about seeing what sort of revenge I could extract. First of all, I went to my lawyer, who told me what I expected. No legal routes existed to go after him that wouldn't cost me way more than I wanted to spend on this revenge. Secondly, I hired a PI to dig into him. It turns out, surprise, surprise, that lots of people are after this guy. Former business partners, hospitals in Florida, some very big medical thing that he skipped out on, as well as several other people. It was finally my accountant who showed me the best possible way to get back at him without spending a lot of time or money. As I mentioned, he took out all of his pay from me as loans. Now that I had spoken with my lawyer and the PI, I knew I had essentially 0% chance of ever recovering that money from him. So I did the next best thing to benefit my business while also completely ruining him. I forgave the loans in their entirety. This had two huge impacts. First, I got a $60,000 tax write-off because the loans were now bad debt, which reduced my tax bill down to zero. A small but happy victory. Secondly, he now owes the IRS $20,000. You see, when I forgave the loan, it became income to him. Once it becomes income, full income taxes, including federal, state, payroll, social security, Medicare, etc., they all become due and payable. Now, because it's not payroll income, I don't have to pay the employee portion of the taxes. This means he owes the IRS $20,000 that he can never escape through bankruptcy or any other means. And I have the world's most vicious attack dog trying to get money from him instead of whatever minor debt collection efforts I could have mustered. And I'm honestly so satisfied by this revenge, and I really hope that it caused him a lot of problems. I can only imagine the frustration that must have come along with having an employee basically steal $60,000 from you. Like, that must have been a nightmare. And from the sounds of it, it really seems like this Tony guy really was stealing from a lot of people all the time. Like, this guy is the textbook definition of a con artist. He talks big and then says, hey, all I need to do is take out some loans and then I can start paying you back with some commissions. Like, this guy absolutely had what was coming to him. So honestly, good for the original poster for taking his stand and getting back at this guy by using the IRS against him. Because while you might not be able to chase down all that money, you can bet that the IRS will be all over him, and he is absolutely going to have to account for all that money that he basically stole. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. My entitled manager tries to blame me for their mistakes, but I refuse to take the blame, forcing them to own up to what they did. Here's what happened. So I worked in a place for almost 5 years and had this manager that had been there for maybe a year at this point. Now, this lady used to work in a university, so I guess she was used to younger people listening to what she had to say. Mind you, she had a lot of trouble in her personal life at this time, so I think that's what really brought the entertainment out of this situation. Now, at this point, I've had like 3 other managers, but they all keep leaving, so I pretty much have a new one every single year. So we have this huge activity that we have to do every 3 to 4 weeks, and I always had to do basically the worst part of it. You would usually have to finish up lunch early just to start, and you mostly had to stay late past your contracted hours on that day just to get things done. My manager pulls me aside and tells me that I talk too much while we are doing this task, and that it's distracting her and others from the work. I'm upset about them saying this to me, but like, whatever. I'll just keep my mouth shut so she has nothing to complain about. While we are doing the task, a couple of the guys I worked with started chatting, but I just keep my responses short and I don't initiate any conversation. I literally just put my head down and keep working like a good corporate slave. Now, they could probably tell something was up and they kept trying to joke around, but I just kept my reactions to a minimum. Then, all of a sudden, something starts making a sound and glass goes flying everywhere. We all look where it came from, and apparently my manager started heating a piece of equipment for sterilization, but forgot to refill the equipment with water. So the equipment just kept heating and heating until it eventually exploded. This equipment was also quite costly, mind you, and we had barely any replacements in sight. So after that happened, we all start cleaning it up. All of a sudden, my manager wants to pull me aside. She says we need to have a word in private. I'm confused as to why, but okay, whatever. As soon as we are in the other room, she turns to me and says that she made the mistake because I was talking. It's my fault she didn't follow procedure, apparently. At that moment, I was so angry because she was really going to attempt to lay the blame on me. So I told her, no, I've barely been talking. I did exactly as you asked, and it's not my fault that you broke the equipment. She can tell that I was angry and said that we can talk in our one-on-one meeting. All the while, I remain adamant that I wasn't to blame. Fast forward a few months and she's asked me to help her with the task. She ends up making a mistake, but I tell her it's okay because this is equipment that we actually do have a spare of. She then screws up again and is starting to panic, and that's when I remind her that we have more spares in long-term storage. I then very smugly tell her it's okay, we all make mistakes, and I can finally say that she had some character growth here because she did not blame me and was actually appreciative towards me. Fast forward, and eventually she actually became a really decent manager, and I was genuinely sad to eventually see her go. Yeah, that manager sounds like an absolute jerk. She clearly had some kind of plan set in place if she did mess up, and she was looking at the original poster to take the blame. She was literally just looking for a scapegoat for her stupid decisions, and that's not fair in the slightest. I can't stand people who do that. They make mistakes, they do stuff that they shouldn't, and instead of owning up to it and taking some kind of accountability, they look around for anyone underneath them or anyone else they could possibly blame. It's really unfair, and seriously, people like that need to change. And thankfully, it looks like the original poster's manager did change. They were able to become a decent manager for the most part according to the original poster, and that's honestly really good to see. But when it comes to the initial incident, good for the original poster for standing their ground. They know they didn't do anything wrong, and they were not about to be walked all over by some manager who was clearly trying to find someone to blame. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother-in-law's entire family out of my house, essentially making them homeless, all because they were slowly destroying my home? Here's what happened. My husband's brother, who's 35 years old, as well as his wife, who's 26 years old, and their 2 boys, moved in with me and my husband last month because they got evicted. Their boys are 4 years old and 3 years old. I never wanted them here in the first place due to past issues, but after speaking with my husband, we decided for the sake of the young children to give them a place to stay. Before they moved in, we set some ground rules, such as my brother-in-law must be actively job searching and that they must respect our space and clean up after themselves. Unfortunately, in the past month, they have begun to slowly destroy my home and my space without caring at all about how I feel about it. First of all, my sister-in-law is an extremely picky eater, so their family doesn't eat with us, which is fine, whatever, but they never clean up after themselves, constantly leaving dirty dishes, pans, crumbs, food stains everywhere. When I tell them to clean up after themselves, they begrudgingly do it, but it's never a job well done. Last week, one of the boys had gone to the bathroom on my very expensive couch, which I only found out about after there was a horrible smell when I was watching the TV. My sister-in-law is stay-at-home, but she's more like a stay in her room, doing God knows what, while her two children run rampant around my house. In the last 3 weeks alone, her boys have colored on their bedroom walls, trashed my living room with their toys, knocked over half of my plant collection, and their whole family has turned my house into a zoo, all while contributing absolutely nothing. I have not been able to comfortably live in my own space for the past few weeks. My husband could sense my frustration, so he told me that he would have a talk with them and hire a maid to clean our house. Now things got a little bit better, that is until yesterday. I got home early from work and their family's gone. I think to myself, good, I can have some peace and quiet for maybe a few hours. I decide to go take a nap in our bedroom, only to find that my precious vase that my mother handmade for me was shattered on the ground. For some context, I lost my mom when I was a teen, and it was one of the last handmade items I had from her. I immediately knew it was one of the boys because there were toys inside my room and their tablet was on my bed. I was so angry. I ended up calling my husband, explaining the situation, and told him that they would not stay another day in our house. No questions asked. Then I went around the house picking up their dirty clothes, as well as their toys, papers, and I threw them outside into our lawn. When they came back, there was a huge confrontation between me and them. I listed all the disrespectful things they had done, and that because they had met none of the conditions outlined when they first moved in, I wanted them off of my property by midnight. I called their kids untrained dogs. They screamed back at me, calling me heartless, cruel, evil, saying that I'd make them homeless. Eventually, they did end up leaving after I said I would call the police. My husband is fully on my side, but I can tell that he does feel a little bad. My mother-in-law called me upset, asking me to take them back in after I forced them to sleep in their car last night. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for kicking my brother-in-law's entire family out after they slowly destroyed my home? No, you are not the jerk. I think there probably could have been a conversation leading up to this, or some kind of intervention to say, hey, you need to stop destroying my house or you've got to go, or something like that. But you know what? Considering the circumstances, I don't blame you for being so angry and kicking them out. Honestly, they did this to themselves. These parents completely let their kids run loose and do whatever they wanted. The parents were not involved, they were not cleaning up after themselves, and they were completely taking advantage of your kindness. And you know what? If your mother-in-law is really concerned about their kids not having a place to stay, then she easily could have stepped up and said, oh, come to my house. But they probably don't want that because they know how they're gonna act. And she also could have pitched in and helped them buy a hotel for the night. There are so many options ready for them, this is not even funny. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, in my opinion. I think your extended family was being very toxic and they were taking advantage of you and not pulling their weight in the slightest. They completely disrespected your space and they did not follow any of your rules. So honestly, they absolutely had this coming. Am I the jerk for refusing to go on holiday with my cousin, all because she invited friends that I literally don't know? Here's what happened. My cousin and I organized a vacation to America last year in October. Everything was going smoothly. The hotel was booked, activities were planned, outfits were ordered, and plane tickets were purchased. Everything was fine, and I was looking forward to spending the holiday with my cousin. I was at home last weekend when I got a phone call at 1 in the morning. Mind you, my phone is on Do Not Disturb, so my cousin decided to call my aunt because I wasn't answering. My aunt then comes into my room and wakes me up to tell me my cousin wants to talk to me. So I call my cousin and I asked if everything was okay, and she tells me she has two mutual friends who heard through the grapevine that we were going to America, and they asked her if they could come along with us and stay at the Airbnb that we had booked, which my cousin told them I would pay for. I tell her that I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of these two people that I've never met before spending 2 weeks in the same house as us. I asked her why she would tell them it was okay without checking with me first, since I was paying for half of everything. She told me there was no problem with them staying with us because there were 2 spare rooms in the Airbnb. I asked her if she knew these people because she had told me that they were mutual friends. She said she met them at clubs through friends over the years and they had only spoken a few times. I told her I didn't feel comfortable with the idea of them staying with us because I don't know them and I don't know what they are like. She tells me that I don't have to worry about her friends and that I shouldn't judge them because I've never even met them. My response was that if I don't end up liking them, then I'm stuck in the same house with them overseas for like the next 2 weeks. Her friends are now expecting to tag along with us to all of the activities we had planned months ago, which I originally thought would just be me and my cousin. I've told her I don't know if I feel comfortable with them coming along, and she's told me it's too late because they have already booked their plane tickets and she had already told them that they can stay with us free of charge. She told me that if I don't like the idea of them staying with us, I can get my own place, although I have already paid for half the Airbnb, which cannot be refunded. I want to tell her that I'm not going if they are coming, and that they will have to find a way to pay for the rest of the Airbnb without me, but I can't get a refund. I am so frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. First off, you are not the jerk for not wanting to go on this holiday. Your cousin literally betrayed your trust. They basically said, oh, I'm gonna bring some friends along that I didn't discuss with you earlier, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like seriously, what is this cousin thinking? They are literally throwing you under the bus and forcing you to be a part of something that you don't want to be a part of. If I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. I don't know these people. I don't know them from anywhere. Like, are they trustworthy? Are they gonna steal from me or hurt me or my cousin? Like, clearly your cousin doesn't know them very well. Like, this honestly has bad news written all over it. Also, I wouldn't back out of this trip if I was in your shoes. I think it's safe to assume that the Airbnb is probably the cheapest aspect of this entire trip. So in my opinion, I would just find a new place to stay and not give up your vacation all because of your selfish cousin. But honestly, whatever you choose to do, I would just think about yourself in this situation, because your cousin clearly hasn't done that, and they would rather try and invite some random strangers to come along for this trip with you instead of trying to enjoy the plans that both of you already agreed on. Am I the jerk for yelling at someone when they stole my friend's wheelchair? Here's what happened. Around a couple of years ago, my friend by the name of Jackson is not their real name, was involved in a terrible accident. Despite being somewhat fine from the waist up, besides bruised ribs and a dislocated shoulder, he lost complete usage of his leg, so now he uses a wheelchair. Despite this, he doesn't take any garbage from anyone at all. He's like an iron wall. You can try and hurt him emotionally, but he will serve up a rebuttal straight on you. He does need help with stuff, so I do help him out on occasion. Even though he is progressing with therapy, he can stand for a tiny bit before needing to sit back in his wheelchair. Today, we had to go to the pharmacy so he could get medication. I told him I was going to get something to drink for us, and that if he needed me, he could just yell for me. After 5 minutes, I hear a scream from him, so I run over. What happened next absolutely enraged me. He was holding onto a shelf without his wheelchair. Looking, I saw a woman pushing her son on his wheelchair. Jackson told me what happened since I saw red and everything was kind of a blur. I basically acted out of instinct, and I was rushing over to them. I yelled and yanked the wheelchair. Jackson said that the kid hopped off, and it seemed like he purposefully fell onto the cardboard display. His mother cried that I shoved her kid off, but thankfully Jackson gave his side of the story since it was his chair in the first place. The pharmacy had cameras and they were escorted out of the building. After Jackson and I told a friend about this, she said that the kid was tired and needed the seat more. Now, we know that she is completely in the wrong, but I'm starting to think that maybe I reacted in the wrong way when it comes to this situation. So I need to know, am I the jerk for yelling at someone when they stole my friend's wheelchair right out from underneath him? No, you are not the jerk. This is like the least jerk thing you could have done. Those people seriously stole this guy's wheelchair. Like, let's think about that for a second. They saw a guy in a wheelchair and they thought to themselves, ooh, free wheelchair. Let's use that to get around. Like, I don't blame the kid for sitting in the wheelchair. I know when I was a kid and I went to pharmacies or other public places and there was a wheelchair over on the side, like near the entrance or something like that, I of course might sit in it just to try and play around with it. But the mother in this situation, the mother is completely to blame here. She is 100% at fault. She knows better. She knows that this guy was clearly using this wheelchair. She also absolutely heard this guy scream out and probably get really upset when his wheelchair was taken away. I mean, Jackson was holding onto the shelf trying to hang on for dear life. He literally can't walk. And you going over there literally was was the right move. He needed help and he needed someone to be there for him. So of course you're not the jerk in this situation. The friend who's saying, well, the kid was tired and he needed the seat more. She is a complete moron and I would ignore that altogether. There's no way that that kid was so tired that his mother would feel the need to steal someone else's wheelchair just so he can have a seat. Like if that's the case, then maybe it's time to go home and get some rest. So no, obviously you are not the jerk in this situation. Your friend is already going through a tough transition in life as it is. And the last thing he should have to worry about is some stupid entitled Karen walking up while he's not looking or when he's trying to stand up and practice walking just to take the chair right out from underneath him, basically leaving him stranded in this pharmacy. You did the right thing, and if I was in your shoes, I would not feel guilty in the slightest. An entitled jerk takes up my sister's handicap parking spot by parking his expensive BMW in our spot. But once he gets a ticket for parking in our handicap spot, this guy freaks out and says some horrible things to me as well as my family. So I decided to get some revenge on this guy by posting online the secret recording I made of his interaction with me and effectively ruining his reputation in our community. And I've never felt more satisfied to get revenge on anyone in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my little sister, who is the sweetest girl in the world, is 12 years old but can't walk or communicate. Her mental age is about 6 months old. She obviously cannot attend a regular school, but since we live in a big city, there is a wonderful school for kids just like her. Even though we don't own a car since we don't need one, we got the city to put up signs in front of our house designating a 4-meter spot for wheelchair pickup and drop off for her school bus every morning and afternoon. The signs went up perhaps 2 years ago, and after the first week, we never really had any issues since most of our neighbors are wonderful and totally understanding of our designated spot. For some context, we live in a perhaps poorer community, though we are well off. But in our 9 years here, we've had nothing but great interactions with everyone in the neighborhood. Sadly, the neighborhood is gentrifying, and we're getting more self-centered people with their expensive cars actually honking at us while my sister gets loaded onto her school bus. This process takes about 4 minutes, but blocks our little street. And when they do this, it really upsets me, as well as the other sane people that witness this happening. Naively, we thought this would be the extent of our unpleasant interactions, but boy were we wrong. In September, we woke up like any other Monday morning to find a shiny BMW parked in our disabled spot. Now, it wasn't just partially in it, it was positioned perfectly to take up the entire spot. To make things worse, there were about a dozen other open spots on the block, and it's not like they were all vacated that morning, since we wake up at about 6 in the morning. We were absolutely baffled. I had seen this car many times since last July, and it was definitely the same car, since there aren't many burgundy sports cars in our neighborhood. It was usually parked about 20 meters south on our street, and we knew it belonged to a neighbor a few doors down. We did all the basics in this type of situation. We took a picture, we took down the license plate, and we called the police just to report it. The cops came by within an hour and wrote a big fat ticket. I believe it was for about $700 or some other kind of significant amount. Well, at around noontime, a smug, angry guy came knocking on my door, and it was right about then that I realized that this guy was gonna be a problem. Now, it was obvious that this was the owner of the car, so I made the quick decision to record the conversation on my phone. I opened the door, and before I could say anything, this jerk was laying into me. He accuses me of putting up those signs this morning just to get him in trouble. He goes on to say that disabled spots shouldn't even be a thing, that it's always empty, and that we should pay for his undeserved ticket, that it isn't even an inconvenience, since the spot next to his was free, and my sister could have just gotten onto the bus from there. Once he finished, I said okay, and I shut the door on his furious face. He rang the doorbell another 5 times before storming off. To my satisfaction, the recording caught everything clearly. In the evening, I told my parents what had happened, and I gave my dad a copy of the recording. Now, we have a tight-knit community for the most part, and there is a neighborhood Facebook group with about 3,000 members. My dad decided to post a summary of what had happened, along with the recording, and a picture of the car in our spot on the page. Well, once that was posted, there was an immediate uproar, with people saying that they would fight back. We were humbled by the feeling that our community was standing up for us, but we honestly didn't think anything would come of it. The next day, I leave the house to go to school, and I walk by this guy's car that's in his normal spot, and I notice that the front tire has been completely deflated. Upon further inspection, it was slashed, and as I said, our community is tight-knit, but I can't say I expected anything like this to ever happen. happen. The guy must have seen the Facebook post because he didn't come back to our house to complain or accuse us of anything. The following weeks were sweet. Whenever I saw him in public, people would go up to him and remind him that he was an awful human being. Fast forward to November, and his house had a for sale sign in the window. The house market had gone down by quite a bit. I'm always kind of curious about how much houses similar to ours are selling for compared to how much we paid for ours in 2010, so I basically knew what he had paid for in July. Once I saw the for sale sign, I rushed home and I checked the local house listings, and lo and behold, he was selling for $90,000 less than what it was going for in July. He clearly wanted to get out of the neighborhood. While his crime wasn't nearly worth $90,000, I must say that I don't feel bad. Worst case scenario, he sells that obnoxious car of his, which would easily cover the lost money. But since that incident, let's just say that we haven't had a single car parked in my sister's spot ever since. That guy is a grade A jerk. First and foremost, that was really good thinking of the original poster to record that interaction. I mean, that made all the difference in the world. This could have been a very long and drawn out situation if that wasn't recorded and posted online. Like this guy that was complaining because he got a ticket seriously has some twisted morals. Like handicap spots are there for a reason. It is absolutely necessary in society, and anyone who thinks otherwise seriously has some twisted viewpoints. And while I think the destruction of property really was a bad idea, I think the public outcry and his loss of reputation really was well deserved. I mean, this guy just ruined his standing in the community, and he literally didn't have a leg to stand on. There was nobody on his side. So the fact that he had to sell his house for much less than what it was worth just to try and get out of that neighborhood is really funny to me. So good for the original poster for recording that interaction. It literally made the difference for that community, and now they don't have to deal with a jerk like that ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. Also follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and Twitter to see all the stories that couldn't make it into the videos. My mother-in-law is supposedly setting a boundary that she's demanding that people have to show up to her house this Christmas this year. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. So Christmases in our blended family are going to be stressful, and I'm now figuring this out. My wife by the name of Sarah, that's not her real name, is from the opposite coast from me. She moved here on purpose to escape the little area she grew up in. Her mom and dad split up in 2021 after 35 years of marriage. We have been married for almost 4 years. My family all lives within 45 minutes of a plane ride or a 2-hour car ride from each other on this coast. My sister and I both live in extremely destination-style cities. In addition, Sarah's brother lives in the same city as us. To make a long story short, my mother-in-law is supposedly setting a boundary that Christmas will be at her house this year. And I really use the word boundary quite loosely because I really think she's being manipulative. She is refusing to travel at all and says that she always travels for Christmas. Now, this has been true for the past 2 years. We did a blended Christmas at my sister's house in 2021 and a blended Christmas at my newly purchased home in 2022. Now, I honestly think that this is a power play by her mom and also ignores the fact that Sarah and I travel to see her at least twice a year. She lives far away from airports, so it's always a heavy lift, but we bear it because she is family. Logistically, there's basically 2 options for me and Sarah. We have 2 whole Christmases with both sides of the family, or we have 1 blended Christmas. My sister has a 7-year-old and a husband whose work deals in shipping, logistics, and delivery. So December is an absurdly busy month for them, and they functionally cannot travel. I also have a job that needs doing in December, and so does Sarah. I think we need to set some kind of counter boundary with her mom, or something like that, because honestly, at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. I don't think your mother-in-law knows what a boundary is, because what she's describing is literally a demand. She's demanding that you have to go to her house for Christmas. There's no way around it, and it's just the way things are. That, in my opinion, is very toxic, and that's not fair for anybody involved. And sure, she did just have a divorce that is probably wrecking her world completely, but in no way is the mother-in-law setting a boundary. Instead, she's just trying to tell people what to do. So I'm right there with the original poster. This really does feel like manipulation, if anything, and it's also very inconsiderate to everybody else. In my opinion, if the mother-in-law wants to be in some kind of Christmas party, she should travel to try and make it happen. It sounds like she lives the furthest away from basically everybody in the family, and it just seems a little bit backwards that she's not willing to travel to see everybody in the family. So no, I don't think you're wrong in thinking that this is weird, and if anything, maybe it's time for your wife to step in and try and intervene, because the way your mother-in-law is acting is a little bit strange, and it most likely has to do with the divorce she just had. My neighbor's cat was taken out by by another neighbor's dog, and now she's wondering where her cat is, as well as whether or not we know any information. But as a result, we have not told her anything, and we have not told her what actually happened to her cat, and it's now been several months, and at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. So I had just gotten back from fishing for the day, and was spraying off the boat. When I'm inside the boat on the trailer, my neighbor's back patio is visible over our fence. Now, I don't talk to my neighbors much, but my roommate absolutely does. And it's just the usual small neighbor talk. And she'll ask him every now and then to help out with some heavier labor yard work. I then hear her call out the wrong name to me. She says, "Hey Kevin, Kevin, is that you?" Now, my name is not Kevin, but my roommate's is. I say to her, "I'm sorry, no, my name is the original poster." She says, I've been trying to catch Kevin to ask him about my cat. She's been missing for a few days, and it's not like her to not check in for this long. Have you seen her?" I start asking her what the cat looks like, because our neighborhood has a lot of outside cats, and they're always in the yard. At this point in the conversation, my roommate has walked out the front door, which is around the corner of the house. Not visible to her, but I can see him. He hears the back half of the conversation as I'm telling her that I haven't seen her come through our backyard lately, but I will keep an eye out. At this moment, my roommate makes really wide eyes and slips back inside the front door like Homer Simpson in the bushes. But I think nothing of it because we're always just messing around like that. After I get done with my boat, I go inside and I start telling Kevin about the conversation with the neighbor, and he interrupts me and says, "I know what happened to her cat. It's not just missing. It's not coming back." Confused, I ask what he means, and he tells me that because we hadn't seen each other in a couple of days, he didn't have time to tell me. According to Kevin, while doing yard work the other day with headphones on, the neighbor's cat was sitting in the yard. After a while, he noticed a bit of commotion in his peripheral, and when he focused, he saw that another neighbor's dog had gotten out the front door while their owner went out back. The dog got a hold of the cat and made a complete toy out of it, if you know what I mean. Kevin said he saw the dog fully biting on the cat and shaking it around like a stuffed animal. Now, Kevin did not want to get involved so as not to hurt her, so he calls out to get the owner's attention, but it was already too late when the owner noticed and got the dogs back inside. Kevin said it was honestly too late as soon as it started. The owner started cussing up a storm, obviously infuriated by the situation, while Kevin just watches the entire scene in shock. The cat was completely lifeless. The dog owner says to Kevin, "Oh God, leave the door open for 2 seconds and this happens. Do you know whose cat this is?" Kevin, gazing at this cat that is no longer moving, says that he thinks that it's this lady's, pointing to our neighbor's house. She wasn't home at the time. The dog owner cussed a bit more and sized up what he was gonna do. This guy actually picks up a shovel, scoops the cat up, and puts it inside of a garbage can and then goes back inside. Now at this point, I'm absolutely flummoxed when he's done telling me. I then ask Kevin if he's going to tell the cat neighbor, and he says he's been thinking about it, but doesn't think that it's his place, and if it were him, he would rather just like to believe the cat got hit in traffic. About 20 minutes later, while doing some work in the backyard, she asked Kevin if he had seen the cat, and he tells her no, but he'll keep an eye out. It has been months now, and honestly, we're not sure what to do. This is seriously awful. Like, think about it. This is someone's beloved pet. Someone's pet who they really love and adore, and they take care of them, and this cat is probably another family member to this lady. Like, seriously, you guys need to tell her what happened. She deserves the right to know, and she deserves to know that, hey, the neighbor across the street was negligent with their dog, and this is what happened. I mean, what is going on here? You guys seriously are just gonna keep her out of the loop? You know the truth. Why would you not tell her? That is completely awful to just sit there and say nothing. Here she is, probably waiting day in and day out, trying to figure out where her cat went. And what did the owner of the dog do with this cat? He literally just threw it in the trash. There's not even the body of the cat to confirm her worst fears. This is such a terrible thing to do, and honestly, this is not okay. You guys are complete jerks for keeping her in the dark when you know the truth. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have told her right away exactly what happened, because your neighbor absolutely deserves the right to know. An entitled Karen freaks out when she finds out her son is lower on the batting order than she feels he deserves. And I've never been more annoyed to be a volunteer coach for a baseball team in my life. Here's what happened. So this just happened yesterday, and I'm still flabbergasted by the gall of people. I coach my 9-year-old summer baseball team. If you know anything about Little League, you'll know summer baseball is only about staying active. There's no mandatory practices, no tournament, only 2 games a week over a 4-week span, so the kids get to keep swinging. It's basically the pickup version of organized Little League baseball. Last night was our second to last game, so we've been playing for 3 weeks. I start warm-ups 45 minutes before every game, and this has been known phone since before our first game. I put the lineup together 30 minutes before game time because at this point, I should know who is and isn't going to be there. I knock the task out as early as possible so I can get back to warm-ups with the kids. And it's right about now that the entitled Karen of this story rolls in 20 minutes late before game time with her son. I had put him at the bottom of the batting order and had him sitting out on defense the first inning because I wasn't sure when I did the lineup if he was coming. There's this perception that the worst players on the team bat last. So seeing her son at the bottom of the batting order set her off. Mind you, her son plays on select teams, which is a pay-to-play advanced league, and doesn't necessarily mean you're the better player, and his dad coaches select. That means her son must be the best player on the team and should be batting higher in the order, right? Well, she definitely thinks so. She has her son thinking that too, because he was crying on the bench before the game had even started. She proceeded to try and argue with me in front of everyone that she had been on time for warm-ups the week prior and no one else on the team was there. So they came later last night because we weren't actually starting 45 minutes early like I said we would. First of all though, that's not true. Granted, I've missed 2 of the games, but when I'm there, I'm always an hour early and she is never on time. Secondly, her son skipped an optional practice I held simply because it was only a practice. So they're not taking the whole thing very seriously anyways. I pointed out that every other kid on the team had been here on time last night and was warming up. I wanted so badly to say, hey, this is a volunteer position. You want to set the lineup? You coach the next year. But instead, I had to placate her by saying it wasn't about her son's skill, because literally it wasn't. But it was about him being late for warm-ups and the fact that I'd already set the lineup. She proceeded to jump on the phone and start complaining about me, then hovered by the dugout the entire game. And honestly, it makes me realize that coaching is a thankless job and Karens leech all the fun straight out of it. Yeah, that lady's being super obnoxious. If she wanted her kid to be higher up on the batting order, she literally just had to show up on time. Like, that's all she had to do. But instead, she wants to complain and be weird about it. Her kid's probably not even that good at baseball anyways, like, come on. So I don't blame you for being frustrated. This lady was being really annoying, and maybe next time if she wants her kid to be higher up on the batting order, she can come on time and try and take this seriously. Today, I messed up by serving a customer an entire wine glass full of soy sauce, assuming by mistake that it was actually red wine, and I've never been more embarrassed in my life. Here's what happened. So this actually happened a while ago, but has scarred me so much that I think about it years later every time someone orders a glass of red wine. When I was 18, I started working my first server job at a local family-owned Japanese sushi restaurant. It was pretty small scale, 10 to 12 tables, and I was the only server as they didn't get much business. The restaurant was owned by an old woman, but her son and daughter ran the restaurant by this point, although she still worked in it. They also all lived in a house nearby. They frequently transported things back and forth between their house and the restaurant. They kept a lot of storage at their house, but also just took home food or supplies to use at their house. I worked there for a few months, and one night a table ordered a glass of wine. We keep the red bottles on a different spot in the restaurant compared to the whites, and we keep it in a fridge in the kitchen. I was busy, so rather than walk to the other end of the restaurant, I grabbed a nearly full bottle of wine on the end of the sushi bar, a spot I would learn later that they usually keep some of their personal items at. I poured the glass and brought it to the customer, who was a woman with her family. I was stopped by them a minute afterwards, and she told me her wine did not taste good at all. It was bitter and incredibly salty. Her husband said it didn't even taste like wine, but more like soy sauce. I exchanged puzzled looks with them and apologized and took the glass away and said I would open a new bottle just for them. I walked over to my boss, the son, who is a sushi chef, along with an old man who's part of their family. I told them they said the wine tasted bad, and they were dismissive and just told me to get a new glass for them. Then I mentioned how they said it also tasted like soy sauce, and my boss literally stopped rolling sushi and looked up at me with a horrified look on his face. He turned towards the old man and started speaking in another language, and the more they were talking, the more my stomach just sank. My boss tells me that the other sushi chef took an empty bottle of wine and filled it up with soy sauce just so they could take it home, but they left it on the end of the counter. He confirmed to me that I just served them a glass of soy sauce wine. I got them a new glass and explained what happened and profusely apologized. My boss then came over and apologized as well and took off all their drinks from the tab. They laughed it off and would continue to come back after that and make me feel so embarrassed by bringing it up every time. Now, anytime a glass of red wine is ordered, I am honestly completely terrified. That is a really funny story. Imagine that. You're just trying to do your job and work your job as an 18-year-old. You have this small sushi restaurant that you you work at, and a couple order some red wine and you try and pour them a glass. But instead, you pour them a bunch of soy sauce. First off, that must have been really gross. Like, you would probably know right away, yeah, this is not wine. This is straight up salty soy sauce. Listen, I love soy sauce just like the rest of them. Anytime I order sushi or Chinese food, I'm always putting soy sauce all over my food. It adds just a little bit extra to the already delicious meal, but drinking it straight literally makes me want to gag. That seriously sounds so disgusting, and I can only imagine how jarring that must have been to literally take a giant swig of that. But thankfully, they were good sports about it. They didn't freak out and they didn't cause a massive scene. So hopefully the next time you see a bottle of red wine on the countertop, you check with the other sushi chefs just to make sure it is what it says it is. Because I'm sure that's a mistake you're definitely not going to make again anytime soon.
Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and also check out Am I the Genius? You definitely will not regret subscribing to them. They are incredible and we love them so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.